new ways about you. I do. I'm a never day before. Alrighty then. Noise. Only God knows. Whoa, 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 whoa. Never day before. And I say, I didn't never did before. Welcome, brother, Comic Brandon. How you doing, my friend? How you doing? You're about to see how the sausage gets made. No, you're not. I'm not gonna do that right now. What's up, Brandon? Where are we at today? I just made a video talking about free will, and this is one where Comic Brandon could go either way. Free will or no free will, Brandon? What do you think? Do you make choices, or is everything determined? Welcome to the chat, bro. Welcome to the chat. Oh, and let me drop that Discord in there. I know you're not going to join, but hey, might as well try. Might as well try to get you in here. Damn, infamous. What did Will do? Free all the homies, dog. Okay, got you. Yeah, I'm with you, John. I'm with you, Brandon. I'm with you. Free homie Will. If you don't believe in free will, then you should free all the homies. There should be absolutely nobody in jail because they had no choice. That's my take. They had absolutely no choice of whether they were going to commit that crime or not. Fortunately, I'm not a beta cuck simp, so I do believe in free will. I believe in justice. Another day before. All right, Brandon. All right. Let's see. What can we watch that is not going to get me copyright stricken and is also going to teach you about, I don't know, anything. What you up to today, Brandon? Gonna hit any open mics this weekend? This week?
So let's just take the word soul itself. The word soul in Hebrew is neshama. Neshama. It comes right in the beginning of the Bible in Genesis, where it says that after the sixth day of creation, God took a clump of clay of earth from the ground, shaped it into what would become a body, and
okay, let's get into it. Free will is a complicated subject. That you see things as complicated, Brent? I thought you had omniscient knowledge. On the grand scope of things, I do not believe in free will. I believe we can make choices and work together to forge the future, but with parameters. Well, yeah, obviously there's going to be parameters, but the question is, do you make those choices freely? Is it determined? Is it, if a supercomputer could, calculate every single atom and molecule and neural firing and everything that's happening in your decision-making process, can you actually decide whether to wear a blue shirt or wear a red shirt? Can you decide to do good or evil? Or is that something that is just baked in, that it's always going to be like that? No matter what your will is, you will just do whatever you're going to do.
And then
Okay, of course they're based on past experiences, and of course they're limited by certain things. I don't have the free will to, like we were talking about the other day, jump into the sun using my own power. But that's not really the question. The question is, on the level that you do make choices, are they free choices or are they determined? But of course they're going to be limited. Of course they're going to be based on your past experiences. Yeah, I agree with you. Blur plu, unless they invented it. Yeah, there are things that you can't will to do. You can't will to create the universe. That doesn't mean you don't have free will. Free will is whether the choices that you actually do make are free choices or not free choices. Free will does not mean ultimate freedom. I don't know how much more simply I can explain this to you, Brandon. Nobody who believes in free will thinks you have the free will to, create a black hole. You know what I mean? To fly into the sun. Of course not. So what do you think about what people actually think free will is? I'm going to wait till you respond to that because you're just saying the same thing over and over again. Yeah, your will can exist out of your reality, but I'm talking about choices that you make. So by definition, and I'm talking about simple choices. Like, sure, there's the big ones of am I going to be Hitler or not Hitler? I know you're going to choose to be Hitler. That's fine. But just kidding, Brandon. Don't get offended. Of course, I can desire to be Superman. I'm talking about when you choose to get a coffee or a tea, are you making that choice or is it being made for you by determinism? What is a cope about free will? How is it comfortable? If anything, it's less comfortable because you actually have responsibility for your actions. There's absolutely nothing copulent about free will. That doesn't even make sense, Brandon.
Imbued it with his breath, with divine breath. So therefore, in Hebrew, the word for soul and the word for breath are actually the same word. They're just pronounced differently. Neshama is soul. Neshima means breath. So when we breathe, physically breathe, we inhale and exhale. It's exactly the same thing. As I mentioned, breath comes through our mouths, to our throats, into our lungs, fills up the lungs, which in turn gets oxygenated and then distributed through the blood into the body. And then we exhale the carbon dioxide and other elements that should be exhaled. And this process continues back and forth. As a matter of fact, it's called in the Kabbalistic literature
the question of whether or not God exists is a...
No free will means even more Brandon, what? Means even more responsibility because then you have to figure out why you make choices and how they are limited. False, Brandon. That makes no sense. There's no reason to figure out why you make choices and why they're limited because you absolutely have no other choice to make. You can't better yourself. You can't learn anything. You can't actually do anything other than what is fated to you. So are you like an old Greek pagan who believes in the fates? Do you believe that you have absolutely no choice but to do whatever you're going to do today? Free will is I can leave my trash at the campsite. No free will is I should pick this stuff up because nobody else will. I don't see how that's related to free will. I can leave my trash at the campsite is a free will decision, but picking it up is also a free will decision. And under your model, if you're the type of person that just doesn't pick up their trash, then you will never pick up your trash, and you will never learn to pick up your trash. No, I know that atheists believe they have responsibility. They just don't have a fundamental grounding for responsibility. So your belief that you're responsible for your actions is inconsistent with your worldview. Because in your worldview, you are not responsible for your actions. But you say you are, which I agree, you are. And you feel you are. Which is why atheism is so illogical. Because you do things that you have no grounding for. You are secretly a Christian. You are secretly a theist. You secretly believe in free will. But you just refuse to acknowledge it. Even though that's the way you live your life. It makes no sense. It's totally, what's the word? Cognitive dissonance. You're experiencing cognitive dissonance when you say things like, I have responsibility for my actions, but I also have no free will. That is a dissonance. It makes no sense. Logically, they cancel each other out. I know that atheists do still act morally. I know that they do still act as if they have free will. They hold people accountable as if they have free will, but they don't believe in it. So it's totally dissonant. But you explain to me, Brandon, and it'd be easier if you came in the Discord, but you can do it this way. You explain to me how this isn't a cognitive dissonance, that you don't have free will and that you are responsible for your actions. You're going to need to flesh that out because it's totally unintuitive and illogical, really.
Common question that many people ask. And the existence of God is one that is heavily debated between believers in a higher power and skeptics and atheists. And many times people who don't believe in God will ask for hard evidence for his existence. And they'll challenge Christians and tell them, show me proof and I'll believe. And to be honest, Christians can't give hard evidence that God does exist. However, just because believers can't show God physically, it doesn't mean there aren't any good reasons to believe in God. So in this video, I want to cover 3 reasons why people can believe in God. However, I should mention—
You let me know, Brandon, if you have an answer to that. I know you're chugging away. You're working hard over there, so not trying to get impatient with you, but yes, please do link a video. Throw that in the chat. I'll click on that. We can watch it together. And if it's not made by an actual monkey, then then definitely. Yeah, let's do it, Brandon. That sounds fun. You either tell me what it's called, or if you can, drop that link in the chat and I'll click it. And we can watch it together. And you can answer my questions. If you can answer my questions as I watch it. But if this doesn't explain how free will and responsibility aren't mutually exclusive, then it's not really going to do anything for your argument. No, there isn't. Which is a possible sign that it doesn't let you link things in the chat, unless you're me. So why don't you... What is the exact name of the video? I can look it up. Just type like the actual title into it. I don't see any hyperlink. Big Think, Robert Sapolsky. Oh, Brandon, you're not going to be happy about this. Yep, I know this guy. So which one do you want me to do? Oh, it's this one, I guess.
Your frontal cortex is the part of your brain that is the freest from genetic influences because it's still being sculpted by environment and experience a quarter century after you plopped out there, whereas most of the rest of your brain is sculpted by 2 or 3 years worth of experience. Whoa, we evolved, our genes evolved to free our frontal cortex from strict genetic determinism and to make it much more sculpted by environmental determinism.
Okay. Yeah, is there any comment you want to have right there, Brandon, or is that you're okay with this understanding? Because the scientific argument for free will is not going to get you all the way there, but I'm willing to entertain you and see where you think this goes.
Today on Big Think, we delve into a thought-provoking conversation with Dr. Robert Sapolsky. He shares with us his insights on his concept of free will, or the lack thereof, and its profound implications for humanity. Robert Sapolsky is a distinguished professor at Stanford University, acclaimed for his expertise in biology, neurology, and neurosurgery. Renowned as a MacArthur Genius Fellow and a research associate, author of several best-selling books, including Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, The Trouble with Testosterone, and his latest work, Determined.
100-page nightmare of a book, and in the aftermath doing a lot of lecturing about it. And
I'm just skipping some of the intro stuff because I do know I've listened to Alex O'Connor's thing on Sapolsky, and I know who he is. So I understand he's a accredited, acclaimed neuroscientist. I'm not going to have any issue with his credits, right? So let's get into his argument.
You've written Behave, you now have Determined, and you've at length explained why we don't have free will. I'm curious if you could provide us with the most succinct version of that argument for us, just to foreground things for our audience.
Sure. Everybody thinks they're seeing free will when we choose something. We're consciously aware of doing it. We know what the consequences are likely to be. Most importantly, we know there's alternatives available to us. And for most people, that's necessary and sufficient. There's free will. And my whole point is that misses everything that's going on because you're not asking the only important question, which is how did you become the sort of person who would have that intent at that point? And the answer is because of the biology over which you had no control, interacting with the environment over which you had no control, stretching from 1 second ago to the moment you were fertilized egg. And when you look at how that stuff works, there's not a crack anywhere in there in which you can insert sort of the everyday intuitive notion of free will.
Okay, let's stop there. That's a good place to stop. And I'll be happy to rewind if I missed something, but that was all just introduction stuff, telling us who he was. I didn't skip anything that is related to his argument. So what his argument here is, as a biologist myself, the end of all discussion about free will be answered by biology. Little convenient, don't you think? Little convenient. So let's break down what he's talking about here. He's saying that because your brain is involved in making free will choices, and so he's going to say your genetics lead up to the type of brain that you have, and then your environment is going to shape how your brain interprets signals and sends those out. He's going to say there is absolutely no space for you, your person, to enter in and make a free will decision. But this is the genetic fallacy as clear as it gets, okay? So my worldview is that you have a soul, that you have more than just your biology. So if you only believe in your biology, then of course there's no free will. That's the whole point of this. If you only believe in biology and you trace every decision and every action and everything that impacts you to your biology, then of course you have no free will. In fact, you're not even a real person. You're like some sort of animal machine. So there's no free will. So in Robert Sapolsky's worldview, you must agree with him. But that's not my worldview. My worldview is that you have a soul, that you have interactions between higher metaphysical planes and your biology. So if my genes and my neurons tell me that I want coffee or that I want to wear a blue shirt versus a red shirt, that's my soul telling my neurons what to tell my body, what to tell my hand who picks out the red shirt. So he's just stopping the buck too early. He's defined free will out of the equation by limiting it to biology. Okay, do you understand? Brandon, if you think a soul is a physical, biologic thing, Jackson, welcome, brother, welcome. Any chance you want to hop on the Discord, Jackson, so we can have a... Oh, let me just drop that in there. So let me know if you want to hop in there. That would be fun. But, yeah, we are having fun. Well, then why can't a soul tell you to want something you don't know exists or can exist? Well, I don't understand that question. Can you clarify that, Brandon? Why can't a soul tell you to want something you don't know exists? Of course it does. How do you think inventions happen? How do you think art is created? That's literally what a sci-fi novel is. Something within you reaching out beyond you and creating something which does not yet exist. So how does it know? Where does that come from? Where does imagination come from and creativity? So far, let me know if you want me to keep playing this video, but this entire video is going to hinge. I got you, Jackson. No worries, no worries. No, inventions do not happen from knowing how things work. Inventions happen from thinking of something that does not yet exist and figuring out how to make it exist. That's the definition of an invention. So, no, you don't figure out how a watch works and then invent the iPhone. That makes no sense. You think of the iPhone and you figure out how to make that work. Okay? Extrapolate. That doesn't mean anything to me, Brandon, unless you want to explain that. But this entire video that we're about to watch it presumes that there is only biology. So if you presume that there is only biology, then you can only ever find biological causes. Okay? Not to mention it doesn't really address the fact that he was talking about earlier, the prefrontal cortex, where you still do have this like range of freedom. He's going to say that's all shaped by your environment and your experiences and the causes leading up to that. It's like, yeah, a lot of that is shaped by that. You are sort of like narrowed in to a type of person that you are. But on the very basic level of choosing a red shirt or a blue shirt to wear today, there's no biological explanation for that. Or maybe there is, but it can't be the full explanation. It just can't be. Yeah, but who created electricity, Brandon? We can play this game all day. Who thought of electricity? Who thought of every single invention is a perception of what has not been created yet, and then a very smart person figuring out how to create it. It comes down to creativity, and it comes down to imagination. And I know you want to boil everything down to science and matter and atoms bumping against each other, but that's not a realistic way to view the world. It leads to nihilism, for one thing. It leads to the denial of free will, which is insane that someone would deny that. Take away your freedom. Make yourself a slave. I don't understand it. Brandon, yes, you're proving my point. I don't know if you're trying to. Yeah, I'm not sure if you're trying to prove my point, but you are proving my point. So before we imagined cell phones, we had radio waves, right? Cool, radio waves. Now what? Did the radio waves tell us how to invent the cell phone? Did the radio waves, are they like some sort of spirit that has a mind that whispered in Steve Jobs' ear, you must create the iPhone? Because that's a little more mystical and spooky than the thing I believe, Brandon, which is that people actually have creativity and imagination and power to create. So there's absolutely nothing about the radio wave which told us how to create the cell phone. Yo, God bless you, Dylan Johnson. Welcome. Nails of Victory. That sounds fun. Let me, Dylan, if you want to join this Discord, feel free to join. We can have a good time. We can hang out. We can chastise Comic Brandon a little bit. God bless you too, my friend. God bless you too. Okay. Yeah, we're not meant to indulge Brandon Infamous, but sometimes we just do when no one else is joining the Discord. Nobody imagines things that don't or that they cannot exist, my guy. Play the video, you're wrong. I mean, does anybody agree? Anybody in the chat actually agree with Brandon that you can't imagine things that don't yet exist? I mean, this is just absurd. Now, for the people that have joined and are here now, welcome. Oh, look, we got a Discord thing. Welcome, Infamous. How you doing, brother? Good to see you again.
I see you. You're catching up on your free will stuff.
Catching up, but actually debunking, because the Robert Sapolsky thing is not going to stand in my book. That's just not going to hold up.
I'm not familiar, or at least I forgot.
His is he boils free will. He says you absolutely have no free will because we can trace biological causes to decision making, which just simply is not enough for me. So in his worldview, where absolutely everything comes down to biology, where the buck stops at biology because he is a biologist, then sure, yeah, you can't believe in free will. There is no free will. But in a normal person's perspective of free will, you have a overarching self, sort of some kind of composite of a soul and a body and a mind that makes decisions. And so if your soul wants to choose, or yourself really, more fundamentally, wants to choose a red shirt over a blue shirt, Robert Sapolsky can say, well, that's not free will because the neurons in your brain told you to choose the blue shirt. It's like, you're missing the point. The neurons are informed by the self. That's what the actual believer in free will believes. So this doesn't even address
you're just instantiated
that
those things. Like you're not, like you're claiming them as self-evident. There's no proof for either of those things.
What do you mean there's no proof?
Like for a soul, for instance.
Yeah, but we're talking about if you want to just say there's no proof for a soul, then fine. But that's also your presupposition that there just is no soul, because there's no proof that there isn't a soul. So
Right, but that's presupposing a negative. Like you can't like doing that is bad, not like habit of logic. Like you can't prove that there isn't Bigfoot. Does that mean there is Bigfoot?
okay, fine. Then let me just phrase it differently, because I think you know what I mean. I think this is a bad faith argument. What you mean is, I can't prove that there is a soul, and what I'm going to respond to you is, you can't prove that everything is reduced to biology. Okay, if you want to make it a
he's
positive.
making an absolute claim that it's absolutely the case.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Are you saying he's making the case that is absolutely the fact that we don't have free will?
Yes, that's what his case is. That's what he's all over YouTube.
I don't know that you can make the absolute case that it is, considering we're not. Like,
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying as well. But the reason we're even watching this is
it's
that
more likely.
you think it's more likely that we do not have free will than that we do have free will. I mean, I know you think that, but why?
Given what we know, yeah, that leads to that.
Given what we know, like all of our direct experience and all the implications of free will, and all, like, what do you know that means that you don't have free will? Cause and effect, we've gone over this. Your will can be a cause. So just because there are causes and effects does not mean you don't have free will. What's that?
Yes, but causes can also be effects.
Yes, of course. Yeah, they are effects.
Would you believe that some of my choices are at least in part
Yeah.
caused by effects?
Of course. I mean, for instance, you choose to speak English probably because that's what you speak, right? Like, of course.
I mean, I'd argue I didn't choose to speak that. I'd be speaking Gaelic if I wanted that.
Yeah. Wait. Actually, say something in Gaelic real quick because I'm so curious. Oh, beautiful, dude. I love that. I absolutely love it. I'm Welsh by heritage, and I just love this like old. I don't know, the old.
Ours is Gaeilge, not Gaelic technically, but it's.
No, I know. I'm just saying they got to be somewhat related, right? Or no?
They are similar, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Portuguese Brazilian versus Portuguese.
Right. Did you don't speak Gaelic at home, did you? Did you just pick it up, or did you learn it?
No. We learned it in school, like
in school.
Like in Canada, how you learn French.
Right. That's interesting.
my
Okay.
main-
Yeah. What was your main point? So what do you know that makes free will less likely than non-free will, given the fact that your direct experience is that of making free choices?
Well, I mean, that's a presupposition. Like you're sticking that in there. The other thing.
Okay, fine. Well, forget that last part. But I mean, you actually deny that it doesn't seem like you're making free choices when you go about your day?
Well, it's a massive like societal presupposition. Like if you didn't believe in choices and if it wasn't evolutionarily beneficial for you to think that you could have done otherwise, so you can do better in the future.
Okay,
Yeah.
but forget about a belief. I mean, I'm just talking about you are like the actual direct experience of where you're gonna move your
Not
hand
really.
to pick
I
up
think I
which
shouldn't
mug.
have done certain things, as in like things would have been more beneficial for me if I had done other things. But I do know that I could not have done it.
Again, presupposition, fine, whatever. You just know that you could not. So let's get into why you know that you could not have done other things. Is it the scientific argument? Is it the Sapolsky argument? Or what is it?
So it's a little bit different, right? I think that claiming absolute like knowledge that like there's definitely no reason that we ever should think that we ever have free will, right? I don't think that's necessarily like substantial. It's a positive claim based on something that like you can't know necessarily.
Right.
Because you need to know all the facts. However, if we take cause and effect to its absolute extreme degree, which there's no reason not to, considering that everything that we have ever found ever has cause and effect.
I mean, I agree with that. Yeah, I don't see how that contradicts
yeah.
free will, but okay, keep going.
Well, I mean, the compatibilist would say that you have a soul or something. But
Yeah.
if you're talking about like purely what science can investigate.
So you
well,
are
we know-
reducing it to science.
I mean, sure, but if it was philosophy, I think you could come to the same conclusion.
Well, I do have a response. So, to be clear, I just made the reason we're even started on this is because I just made a full response video to Alex O'Connor's view of determinism. It's not up yet. I have to edit it and put it out and stuff like that. But I can go into some of these arguments if you want.
Like years ago. I don't know if it's changed.
I don't think it's changed much. This one the video that I was responding to was only from less than a year ago, maybe 5 months ago or something like that.
Yeah, I saw the one that was like 3 years ago or something.
Okay. So I think maybe he's refined it a little bit, but he concedes that the scientific argument for free will, like the fact that you can basically trace choices back to neurons, is not going to be sufficient to deny the possibility of free will. Like, you're going to need to bring in other arguments. So one of the ones he
why?
brings... What's that?
Like, why isn't it sufficient?
Because and I'm not... We can maybe go into the video and see why exactly he concedes this point. Because he kind of just,
I'd be interested in that.
like, the person he's debating just kind of, like, states this. And he
He's
does give
debating
his
someone,
own...
That makes sense.
He does give his own reasons. Like, he's saying, like, okay, so there's scientific reasons, but essentially he is, the person he's debating, a compatibilist. So he's going to say just because the soul informs the neurons to do something, doesn't mean that the self isn't making the choice to do something and then using neurons and using pathways. It would be the genetic fallacy to say just because I can trace it to biology means that's where it stops, right? And Alex goes...
I think you go as far back as physics, to be honest, but...
Fine, physics, which is math.
I'm just saying you could, because that's why the biologist is not going far enough, I don't think.
Right, the biologist is not going far enough. I think the physicist is not going far enough, but I would say the metaphysicist is the only one that goes far enough, really, if you think about it. But that's my own... That's my own...
I don't think there is any of them.
Exactly. That's just my sneaking that in there real quick. But, so Alex somewhat concedes this point. Like, okay, yeah, we can't like necessarily rule out free will by just reducing it all to the scientific argument that neurons seem to inform, or no, they directly do inform actions, basically. So he says, let me make the philosophical argument. And he goes, everything you do is either forced or a free choice. But what are your free choices?
You can trace anything that your free choices are back to a forced choice.
Yeah, well, he's going to say, ultimately he's going to say, you can do, and he pulls on Schopenhauer, so he didn't make this up, this is Schopenhauer's argument, you can do what you want, but you can't want what you want. Right?
He's doing meta cause,
Yeah. So I just First of all, I just fundamentally disagree with that. I think you absolutely can want what you want, and that's exactly what the alcoholic
want to be
does.
gay right now?
No, you can't want anything that you want. But the whole thing falls apart if you can prove that you want anything that you want. So anybody who wants to be a better person wants to change what they actually want. And you know what? For the alcoholic, sometimes that actually works.
Wants to be a better person.
What's that?
It's the causal chain. You're saying anyone that wants to be a better person. So ultimately, it's a versus battle. Like they're talking about, do I want to be a better person, or do I want to drink? Which one wins? Which want is greater? It's not. It's not a causal chain. It's a clashing of ideals.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you. I'm just making the point that wants can be transmuted seemingly by your own will, and then I bring up this point, exactly what you just said. It's like, okay, so then if you want to say that the will to change your own will was itself not an actual choice, but a determined outcome in a chain of necessary events. Does that sum up what you were just saying right there? Like,
I would change out will for want because it seems like an unnecessary placement of will. But
sure, fine. So I was just using that's the language. Alex used the language will, but you're right. Want is maybe a little clearer. And then if you want to say that the want to change your own want was itself not an actual choice, but a determined outcome, then not only have you stripped the person who wants to become better of any reason or sort of like credit for having done so, which I don't think we should do.
Not necessarily reason or credit, but that's about what we talked about the other day. So continue.
Okay. You've erased the word from existence. If to want something is not to want it, but a determined outcome, then it doesn't obey the law of identity. There's no reason to have the word want or will in the English language or in the conceptual realm at all if you just take it out like that, if you define it away like that. So you respond to that.
Some words just don't have instantiations in actually like what they mean. Like for instance, using the word literally, like I literally shit myself. Like no, you didn't. You didn't actually shit yourself. So,
but that doesn't mean we should remove the word literally from the English language or from conception, because there are proper uses of it.
Correct, and there are proper uses of want.
Well, no, clearly not, because you don't actually want anything. Everything that you quote unquote want.
You do want everything. It's the opposite. You want everything. It's just you can't determine what you want.
Right. So you've turned want into this thing that does not correlate to what your will is.
Well, no, it does. It is your will. What you want is your will.
at least you just don't have the freedom to choose what you want, and you don't see how that completely negates the term if you don't have the freedom to choose what you want. Like let's look up the definition of want, just so we're working on solid ground here. Because
Well, I mean, I
it
think the
seems like
definition of
there's
the word doesn't necessarily matter if we're talking about this in such a metacausal way. Like we discovered the other day that the word nothing doesn't make sense in the terms of when we're talking about before the universe, right?
Sure,
But the
sure.
word still has meaning. Like
Yeah, I
the word
agree.
itself, while necessarily problematic, must have a practical use. It's the same with want. Because at the end of the day, like you said, people feel like they have free will. So want still serves a purpose.
Because people feel like they have free will, want still serves a purpose.
Yeah, like obviously if everyone right now was like, well, want, Alex O'Connor is right, want just means this, then they'd just stop using the word. But not everyone agrees, so they keep using it.
Yeah,
Like,
so why do they
nonsensical
keep
words can be got rid of.
So this is going to be another thing that you sacrifice by taking the determinist view, is that that desire itself is a nonsensical concept.
Well, it depends. I would just change the definition. Want is just something that you invoke.
Let me ask,
it.
what would you change it to? What would you change the definition of want to? Give it, say you get to restart the lexicon of English, understanding. What do you change the word
that
want?
you have,
Okay, so what is desire?
and a desire would just be something that you want, and believe it or not a circular argument, because that's how words work in the
I know, I
dictionary.
understand you have to define words by other words, but so desire is something you want, and want is something you desire. So so they have absolutely no real meaning, these words. They have no like tracking onto reality. It's just something that makes us feel good to say or something like that. Is that what basically
Well,
it
a
is?
lot of words are like that in the dictionary. For first off, like the word the or the word at, like shit like that. Like they have to be defined in such a primordial way. And I think that once we're talking about this in a philosophical stance, you kind of have to define it like that, because we're getting so far back to one. It's kind of against like what the word want used to mean, and it's so primordial to what want it actually is.
Okay. Okay. I
Which is
guess
just
yeah.
It's just like I feel like there's a genuine, like I don't feel like there's anything wrong in saying you want something. Well, what made you want that want? Well, another want, and then you just keep going back and back and back and back and back,
Yeah.
and eventually you didn't exist, and you're a production of someone else's want.
But
Then what did
isn't
they
this just
want?
so?
Blah, blah, blah.
Doesn't this just seem sort of intuitively absurd to you that if all that like if you're distilling the entire chain of causal wants and desires down to something else that you want, I want that, and so the way I did in my videos, there's basically a fundamental will or a fundamental want, which we all are born with, and you can choose to deny it. Obviously, that's what nihilism is. But it's the will to live itself, the will to survive, and even maybe to thrive. Do you agree with that? That that's a fundamental. Basically, every single person, and even every single animal, on some level, has this base want.
Well, I mean, I don't know about every single animal. It depends on if this happened when animals were a thing, right? When they became a thing. But like obviously the things that didn't want to live died very quickly.
Yeah, sure, exactly. Yeah, right.
But the innate want to live is a predisposition. I wouldn't say that it's a meta will. Or
But
a
but guess
meta
what?
law.
But guess what? If it's a predisposition, then your desire to, or even if the like experience of free will is this like presupposition, predisposition, it's like baked into you without your choice, without your will, which I agree that it is. You are making the choice to deny it. So you didn't
What do
make
you
that
mean?
choice?
What? No, it's a part of our biology. It's not necessarily something that we choose, as in the same way that anything is we choose. It's a part of our biology. That's the point.
But you
And then
chose.
once you get back past biology, you get into physics and get into causal relationships rather than necessarily like philosophical arguments. And beyond that, I don't think there's any like examples of a non-causal chain, like something that happens like either metacausally or from future to past. Like
I don't
think
understand why
those
there
things
is. I don't understand why you're trying to throw away causality in relation to free will. Obviously,
Wait,
your
throw
free
away?
will is caused by something. Obviously, your free choice decisions would be caused by something and informed by something, and obviously, they would have causal
Well, if they're caused by
effects.
something, then they're determinist. They're deterministic.
No, not true. If it comes
Why
from
not?
if it comes from the self, then it is not deterministic.
What is the self?
The self is a sort. We're gonna have to define it sort of metaphysically, but the self is fundamentally what you experience as you.
What am I?
I'm gonna say you are a composite of mind, body, and soul. You're gonna say you're a composite of just body, or are you gonna say mind as well?
I mean, I'd argue that the mind is just the experience that the brain goes through, but same.
So just body.
Well, body and experience. I think sentience matters there.
But the experience is only right? The experience is truly a physical phenomenon. It's truly, is that what you're saying? Or
yeah, it's what you experience.
Okay, so of course, if you define yourself as just your body, then you don't have any other choice but to believe in determinism. Wait, or what? You haven't?
Yeah. The experience isn't necessarily like material. It's some sort of experience of the material.
Sure. And is that part of yourself or no?
It is part of yourself, yeah. But it's why solipsism exists, right? It's why I think, therefore I am starts with I and not the body.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I look, I'm in on that. Wait, we got someone in the Discord. Hold on. Or no, that's a different Discord. Sorry. I'm getting confused. All right. So.
But I want to get back to this whole the self, this whole thing. Like, it seems like you're just invoking different words for things that would have rules for you wanting something. And I'd like, how does that not determine?
Well, I'm not importing the soul and the mind into the argument because I want to support free will. The mind and the soul are like just baked into any sort of, especially spiritual or religious view of the world, but basically even just like Platonic view of the world, there's an acknowledgement of metaphysic, which it seems like you don't want it.
That's the thing.
It's fine. I'm fine with presupposing it for the sake of the argument about free will. I mean, I can't prove every single word I'm going to say to you in every single context. But when we're talking about free will, if there is a soul, if there is something purely other than the biology, then there is space for free will. If you reduce all of yourself to your biology, there is no space for free will. And I think you agree with that.
Actually, I would extend it even further. Even if there is this kind of like metacausal situation here where you have a soul interacting with the physical body, there could still be a deterministic system, right? Depends on the rules by which the soul plays.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
That's true. If they are a rigid set of rules,
yep,
then it doesn't matter. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say is that even if it's random, if it's interacting with a set of rules at all, which would be the body, it still turns out to be deterministic.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. But I'm just making the point that it could not be. But under your paradigm, under your presupposition, it cannot be any other way.
Well, because I specifically went outside of my presupposition and assumed a soul, right?
Okay. And of course you can
play by certain rules.
Sure, then you can fit in determinism into that structure. But I'm talking about what you actually believe. So, like you said earlier
how would it work is what my main thing. Like, how does the soul work in a way to where you can grant free will outside of determinism?
Well, the soul just wants. The soul has genuine desire and genuine want and can actually, well, again, you don't believe in possibilities, so it's going to be hard, but the soul actually can choose between two options. There are two possible paths, worlds, placed in front of it, and it actually gets to make a decision.
Right, but how does it do that? Like, see, what's happening here is that we're just saying, okay, the body isn't all that exists, because if the body is all that exists, you agree. The soul exists and the mind exists.
Yeah.
So you're invoking those words.
Yes.
And when I ask how they work, you're just saying, well, they work.
Yeah.
So how do they fix this problem? How do they give us free will? How do they give us libertarian free will?
It's not that they give us all the way to free will. Like you said, you can come up with a soulology that explains how they don't give you free will. But I'm saying when it comes down to this Robert Sapolsky scientism, that everything can be reduced to biology, you don't have to believe that. There is a genuine framework that you can choose to believe that does not reduce everything to biology and science, which is obviously the most narrow way to see it. So I'm invoking the soul and the mind.
I think you can literally just say he's wrong because physics exists, and then he's just not being holistic about how biology.
Fine, but then he would probably just say he would definitely agree that physics is the foundation of biology. So fine, just push it back to physics. And you're going to say there's determinism because physics exists. And I'm going to
Because
say
physics exists, yeah. And then
I'm going to say
ask
if you reduce everything to physics, so like the same fallacy that he made in the beginning by reducing everything to biology is the fallacy you're making by reducing everything to physics.
Well, no, because he's claiming absolute truth about the fact. I'm not saying that based on everything we've ever experienced, everything is caused by the fact. That's it, right? And then I'm asking you, how do you make libertarian free will happen? And to clarify, what I mean by libertarian free will is I mean true free will, as in the ability to choose, have done otherwise, not compatibilism free will. Where it like fits in a deterministic system, but we still have blame, which is kind of what I have.
Well, I am a
little bit different.
bit of a compatibilist. I'm not sure if I would totally take on that role, but like, there's obviously deterministic element. There's obviously determinism baked into reality, like obviously. The question is everything determined? Is everything deterministic, or are there genuine? So like, if you want to break down, so you said, how does the soul make choices? Is it based off of other things? Is it based off causation and things? Like, yeah, fine, it is based off of causation and other things.
Well, if it's based off of any causation, then it's deterministic.
False. If the chain of causation starts with the self, then it's not based on anything else.
What's the self?
Exactly. Well, that's a tough question. But there are many ways. I'm not stepping out of philosophy. I'm not stepping out of tradition. I'm not stepping out of anything to presume that there is a self. And so even if there's a causal chain within the self, that doesn't mean it's not free will.
So I agree with you that there is a self, right? I think therefore I am. There has to be a self to experience anything that's going on, right? That's the problem of solipsism.
Yeah.
But how does it get us free will? That's my question, because you're just invoking these words rather than giving me a process.
Okay, so the process of how it invokes free will, I guess we have to define free will. So I'm going to define free will as choices.
The ability to have done otherwise, I think, is usually the definition of free will. But
okay, fair enough. The ability to have done otherwise. I mean, this is self-evidently. Okay, I'm not going to say it's self-evident because you're going to just say, well, that's a presupposition.
Presupposition.
Fine. It's the first the.
Actually, wait, no, I think it is self-evident. I think if most people experience that kind of want, I think you would say it's self-evident without it being like a presupposition.
Okay, fine. I mean, so I do want to say it is self-evident because it is one of the most fundamental things that every single human experiences is the ability to have done something else. What's that?
The Earth being flat at one point was self-evident.
Yes, okay. But does that mean that all things that are presumed to be true are not true in the final analysis? Like, for instance, I
mean, I think I'd argue yes, actually. I think all common experience probably doesn't have absolute truth. Yeah. I think, like, like everything comes up must come down. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Right.
Any adage that you can think of is probably untrue in some certain
sense. It has some sort of exception or something like that.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. I mean, I don't think everybody believing something means that it is true, right? But in terms of...
I'm not saying you're saying it.
Yeah. And so in terms of the self-evidence of free will, there has yet to be any sort of like scientific discovery that invalidates that the way that the flat earth theory was invalidated. Like, we literally have pictures. We literally have done experiments that show the curvature of the earth.
I don't think we have proof that like free will is gone, right? I don't think by any means we have proof of it.
Right. And so as long as we don't have proof of it, as long as it's on relatively equal playing field with free will, determinism and free will, then let me just point out the three things that, well, even if you don't agree it's on relatively, even if you have a single reason to choose the truth of free will, I'm not saying the objective truth, but to believe that free will is true, if you have any reason to do that, you should do it, because otherwise this is what you sacrifice. One, the reality of your direct experience. Two, your direct experience. I thought we established that it's self-evident that people could have done otherwise in almost every situation.
Well, but you said the reality of your direct.
Okay, fine. You deny what your direct experience actually feels like in experience. Is that fair way to put it?
I mean, sure, you deny that, yeah.
Okay,
so you would... way that people who are closeted deny the fact they're gay. But...
Sure, I'm not saying you can't deny it. I'm just saying these are the things you sacrifice. Well, and yeah, if you're a closeted, if you're a closeted, wait, did you say that when you're closeted you deny the fact that you're gay? Because that would prove my point. Do you think you should deny the fact that you're gay?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Right. So that proves my point. If you feel a certain way and that is the way that you experience the world, in what sense why would you want to deny that, or how would that serve you?
Only if you value the truth of your reality. If you don't, I don't care.
Right. I understand. I also don't personally care. I don't get offended if people don't believe in free will, but I do think they sacrifice too much and they don't have a really good reason for doing so. So the second thing.
Well, that's your standard. You know what I mean?
No, but let me explain what the standard is. So one, it's your direct experience. Two,
Sure.
your moral responsibility to make correct choices. In what way don't you? We talked about this at length the other day, and you never gave any explanation for how we can hold people accountable for deterministic outcomes. So
Yeah,
so walk me through that. How exactly do you hold people accountable for deterministic outcomes they could not have chosen otherwise?
Sure, we value morality in the sense that society thrives. And
Why
when
do we
say
value
society,
morality?
I mean, and I haven't gotten to morality yet. I'm setting it up.
Okay,
So-
split it up.
So deterministic universe, right? Let's
Yep.
view that as the game of chess, right? There are a specific amount of moves that you can make in this deterministic game, in which some are more beneficial than others.
Wait, but there
to the
are no
goal of
other choices.
winning.
You said there's no possible world, so there are no other choices. There's only one set of chess moves that you can play.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so there are better moves, right? You can look back at something and say, fuck, should have done something else, knowing that you couldn't have. So if I make the move, and then I go, that was actually a bad move, that doesn't mean I could have chosen otherwise, but it was a bad move. And so if you have the game of chess with the goal of winning, right? And like you
Yeah.
said, in our evolution, our goal is to survive and thrive.
Yeah.
So the goal instilled upon us is to do that. And if we can all agree on that goal, which we generally do, because the people who don't agree on that goal generally don't stay on the chessboard.
Yeah, but not by their choice,
then-
just because that they were forced to be in that position. But yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, the pawns that are kicked over don't have the choice to not be kicked over.
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So there are objectively better moves towards that goal.
Yeah, but you just
can
can't
still-
choose to
you
do that.
can- Correct, but you still get a better outcome or a worse outcome. I can still remove your pawn for a worse outcome.
Yeah, I didn't
Still
ask
put
you.
a motherfucker-
I didn't ask
I
you
can
if
still
there
put
are.
someone. I can still put someone in prison for murdering someone.
Yeah. I know you can still do it. You just don't have a reason to. That's what you didn't
My
answer
reason
the
is that
question.
it was a bad move on the chess.
How do you hold people accountable? They had no other choice. The chessboard is always going to move knight d3 to h whatever. I can't even picture a chessboard.
You were
I'm not that
always going
smart.
to make a bad. You were always going to make a bad move.
Yes, so there's absolutely no reason to hold you
So you were-
accountable for having made the bad move because you could not have made any other move.
I'm holding you accountable by the rules of the game, which is taking you off the chess.
Okay.
There you go.
But so that's fair to you. That's just to you. To people. So
That's the rules of the game. Yeah.
according to you, and again, these are not the rules of the game that I agree to. I wouldn't. But anyway, according to
Sure, we
you,
all
the
view
rule.
the rules differently. That's why we make different moves that are less good and more bad. You know what I mean?
But according to your rules, if you tripped and fell and pushed somebody off a bridge, that is the same thing as you maliciously pushing someone off a bridge. That's the rules you're setting up here. Do you realize that?
No,
In what way don't you realize that?
because one is a direct willingness to want to worsen society.
Oh, so you believe in
And the
will.
oth-
You believe in will to do something.
I believe in will. I do not believe in free will.
Okay.
But one is a direct willingness to want to worsen society by murder, and the other is an accidental.
But society
of a life.
made you want the rules of the game, and society made you want to murder that person, according to you. So is society at fault, or is the
I don't
person
know
at
if
fault?
society made you want.
Well,
I think people
whatever.
have
The
disposition,
chain
for
of
instance.
causation, whatever your the chess game, the rules, whatever your chain of causation made you even want to kill that person maliciously. So in what sense are they even responsible? It's society. It's the game that's
Because
responsible.
they killed them.
But they didn't have a choice. They didn't even do it. They're like some sort of weird
don't see
vessel.
how
They're like a
this-
voodoo
yeah.
doll for
I don't
this
see how this isn't
corrupt.
getting through. He still did something that is objectively a bad move, so he can be blamed for it.
He can be punished, but he can't be blamed. You cannot give accountability to this person. He's
Why
not
not?
accountable. He had absolute. I don't understand how this isn't getting through to you. If you don't have a choice to do anything else, there's no accountability. You can be punished.
Why not?
You can be taken off the chessboard, But you
Right, but what is
can't.
a
But
punishment if not accountability for your actions? Otherwise, nothing is accounted.
there's true accountability. There's you actually did something wrong. So for one,
Right, you
in
did
one
do
case,
something wrong.
no, he didn't do anything wrong. The universe did something wrong in
He
this
did.
giant
And,
macro
I mean,
scale.
if we really want to get down to it,
Yeah.
if we want to take your worldview, for instance,
Yes.
because I think we're going to go in circles with mine. I think
Yeah.
we're just going to go, he's not accountable, and I'm going to say he is because he made the wrong move.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, no, he's not. And I'm going to say he is. So, like, whatever.
Yep.
In my view,
Yep.
this is if this is a problem, I don't think it is, but if it is a problem, it's the same problem, your worldview, with God. God is the initial mover that can
Okay.
make every choice, that predetermines every choice that is ever made in the universe.
No.
He could have
false,
he could have
but
choo-
okay.
he could have chosen to make one universe over another.
Yeah.
In one universe, little Mary gets knocked over by a car. In
Okay.
the other universe, little Mary does not get knocked over by a car.
Okay.
He made the universe in which one happened. Therefore, who is ultimately responsible?
No, you're not assuming my worldview. You're assuming half of my worldview and saying that the universe is determined. When I've been telling you this whole time that God is real and
God
there is
has
free
100%
will.
determined it.
No, he hasn't. There's no sense in which God determined your
God
free
laid out
choice.
the measurements. He's the one who he pushed back the darkness and covered it in fake darkness. He's the one who absolutely created the world with all its measurements set and has a plan
Yeah.
that cannot be gone against. In fact, so much that he can predict the future. And I don't think that anyone can go against that. The
No,
book
this
is
is
pre-written.
this is just a fallacious way to view the way that this like universe works in my worldview. So if God exists outside of time and can obviously predict the future or see the future, that doesn't mean he would never create some sort of bubble where people do have genuine free choice and free wills that he can just peek into and see where they're at along anywhere
But how would he,
on
but
their
how
journey.
would he do that?
What do you mean, how would he do that? I don't know. I'm not God.
Well, but that's what I mean, is that I'm pretty sure that that's a true contradiction. I don't think you can have free will, so I don't think you can do that.
No, this just isn't a contradiction. So, well,
Okay, so
explain
how
to
does
me
he do
why
it?
this is. Explain to me why this is contradictory. That a creature cannot freely choose the next action it's going to make, and keep it simple. Keep it on the level of blue shirt versus red shirt, without
Sure.
without reducing everything to biology and trying to remain consistent with my worldview, which is that there is a God and that there is free will. In what sense is it against self-contradictory or logically inconsistent for God to not give you the choice to choose blue versus red shirt?
Sure, and I suppose it's even weirder that you haven't brought up this analogy from my worldview. In my worldview, there is a chess game.
Yeah.
God is playing himself.
I did call you out on that last time, and you skirted right by it. I said, it's funny that in your analogy, there's two people playing each other, and then you said, no, it's just one person. And I'm like, okay, still, there's a mind playing the game, setting up the rules, holding the rules.
Last time I specifically said any analogy that I would give would necessarily have to necessitate a mind because we're talking about minds. But
Yeah, fair enough. Okay,
Yeah.
anyway, keep going.
And so this time, what I'm saying is directly analogous to your worldview is that the chess game is Earth and God is the player.
Okay.
He controls all the pieces on the board. In fact, he set up the board. He set up all the
No,
pieces
he
on the board.
doesn't. But that's not. Are you trying to make my worldview or your worldview right now?
Yours. He
No,
made
no,
all the
no,
pieces.
no. He put
he
the-
carved them all.
He carved all the pieces. He carved the board. He created the rules of the game, and then
He made
each
all
piece.
their software, he made all
but
their
then-
hardware, everything.
No, he didn't make their software because now you're changing the analogy.
God doesn't make souls.
What? Yes, of course he does. But each
makes their
piece. Okay, that's a little bit reductive, but fair enough. So it's as if he made this software, but he gave the software free will. It's not like an
How did he
equation
do that?
What do you mean how? He just did it. So like if he wants to make if he wants to make a chessboard, you have to prove that this is logically inconsistent. But this makes total sense to me. To create a chessboard, craft all the pieces, make it all beautiful, make the rules of the game that, you know, the pawn can only go one space forward or two on the
Yeah, you,
first
like, go
turn,
to
and they
hell
can
if they
only
commit
capture.
sin, stuff
Yeah,
like
so
that, yeah.
okay, so but the pawn can just move when it wants. It has motion, it has agency, it can do. So the pawn can only
But you're
move one
presuming
step
that
forward.
That's the problem.
What's that?
You're presuming that that's the problem, and the issue with it is that if God creates the chess game, right? How
Yeah.
does he give the pawns libertarian free will for them to have done otherwise?
By telling them you can either stay still, or you can move one space forward, or you can move 2 spaces forward. Do what you will. It's that simple. I mean, I don't see why this is contradictory in any way.
But what happens when you tell that to a computer? It doesn't make any choices because
Well, we're not computers. That's why it's a bad analogy when you start introducing software.
it is when you're
and
talking
stuff
about
like that.
cause and effect.
What?
Like, he is the initial cause, right? If anything, you could probably say that he's the only thing that's
Okay, tell me what the initial cause is of a pawn freely choosing to move 2 spaces as opposed to 1 space forward in this chess game. What is the initial
Well,
cause?
I don't think they could. It's God.
I know, so you're presupposing that they can't. No, it's not God. It's the pawn
Wait,
itself.
1 second.
It's the pawn deciding whether it wants to go 1 space or 2 spaces. Doesn't matter if it's good for the game. Doesn't matter if it's the most optimal pathway. Doesn't matter if
I have to let someone in the house, but we can.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Also, you can read Brandon's shit.
I'll read Brandon's shit and see what he's up to. Okay, and welcome. I saw Jackson. Okay. Or wait, yeah, you had it. Do you do these streams every day? What is your schedule? Yeah, I'm aiming for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and also sprinkling in, if I can, like a Tuesday, Thursday thing. So that's why the notification bell, if you hit that, that will really help. If you're interested in these and you want to know when they're happening, they're all like on YouTube in perpetuity too, if you want to go back and watch any of them. But yeah, in terms of being involved, it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday are going to be the most every single week.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, cool. So you have to explain to me why it's logically inconsistent for the cause of the pawn moving 1 space versus 2 spaces versus standing still, why the cause of that is not the
Or
pawn
taking.
itself's own will.
Yeah, sure. So first of all,
Yes.
if I set up the chessboard, set up the rules,
Yep.
and we have the actual like theology, because like obviously it's not 1-to-1. But we
Yeah.
have the actual theology of what happens in
Okay.
Genesis.
Yeah.
He sets up every factor that ever comes into the souls or minds or whatever you want to say, the decision-making framework of any human that ever comes about.
Well, I don't know if that's true because Satan then comes in and
He creates everything. He created Satan.
But just
He knew
because
exactly what Satan was gonna do.
he created the chessboard and just because he can look and see what Satan's going to do does not mean that he is the cause of the decision, the choice to do something. Do you see that? A choice is unique. A choice is unique from any other cause. Unless you're just presuming that there's no such thing as possible worlds, which, I mean, I think is extremely radical within philosophy. I don't think any philosopher would really agree with that, but we can certainly talk about it.
Sorry, I had to do it. Yeah, I mean, so the main reason right, that I think that this works this way
Yeah.
is
What's the
because
main
you
reason?
cannot give me, because there is a causal chain of things
Yes.
that happen in Genesis that he sets up. Do you accept in a pure cause universe, cause and effect universe, that has one start cause,
Yep.
one, and it doesn't necessarily have to happen it, but
Sure.
and
it
there's
has-
no souls, no souls,
Sure. No souls. Sure.
there is no free will.
Yeah. Sure. Fine.
Okay, but it does have living people. Let's just say. But, I mean, I guess they wouldn't be people.
Yeah,
in
they'd be
quotations,
like
but what you think.
animal people or something, but fine.
Machines. Yeah.
Yeah,
whatever.
machines. Really. Yeah.
Angels, even.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Okay, so my question is,
Mm-hmm.
what is the factor that is introduced into your model that changes that
Uh-huh.
to something else? Because
free
unless
will.
you can give me,
Yeah.
I know it's free will, but unless you can give me a non-deterministic system
Yeah.
of free will that doesn't boil down to some kind of cause and some kind of effect,
Yeah.
it necessarily must reduce back to your conclusion, which is that it's a deterministic system.
Okay, let me try to break this apart and you see where I'm going wrong because it seems like I've just been saying this sort of the whole time. But okay, so in your system, what is the cause? Just let's keep it simple. What is the cause of like a human being born?
Their parents.
Their parents, right? They have sex and there's a whole thing, whatever. Okay.
Goes all the way back to abiogenesis, and then that goes into physics. And that
Given,
goes back.
yeah, all that, it can all be mechanistically traced back to the first uncaused cause. Okay, now given a system where one of the effects of the uncaused cause is genuine free will. So I know you're presupposing genuine free will, that it like can exist, that it is existent.
That's
in the
exactly
system.
what you're doing, yeah.
Yes, I am. Yeah. And I'm showing you what you sacrifice when you don't presuppose that. But I'm also saying you don't have a good reason not to presuppose that. You're just saying,
You don't have a
every
good reason
single
to not
cause.
believe in Bigfoot.
No, it's not. That's fallacious. It's not the same reason you don't believe in Bigfoot. It's a presuppositional choice that has basically equal weight with the other choice. So in a system, but just listen, hear me out for 1 second. In a system where there is genuine free will, can free will be a cause?
Can free will be a cause?
Can it create effects?
So there's a lot to like break down there. I don't
Break it
think
down
I
for
know
me,
the
brother.
I don't think I know the properties of free will.
Well, that's probably part of the problem here. You're seeing it
think you
as
do
a
either, but-
mechanistic thing. It is itself real. It is itself a cause. So things can be the effect of free will. Just by saying everything has a cause, you don't invalidate free will. You're just ruling it out as a possible cause.
No, because I'm not ruling it out. Okay, so I would be ruling it out in these hypothetical universes.
Okay, so in your real worldview, in what sense don't you just rule it out a priori?
Well, because it's unfalsifiable, right? I don't know every single mechanical thing that exists in the universe.
So you
however,
rule out
that
everything
anything
that's unfalsifiable?
Hmm?
So you rule out things in your worldview just because they're unfalsifiable?
No, I don't think you heard what I said. I said I don't rule it out because I can't prove. It's
Oh,
not.
I see what you're saying. Oh, sorry about that. I misheard you. Okay.
I said
go-
in these
go ahead.
hypotheticals, I can absolutely rule it out.
Sure,
Right? That's
sure.
why we're talking in philosophy here.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
We're
yeah,
talking about the
yeah,
actual
yeah,
world. And it's why the scientific thing, like the biology guy, is wrong.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you have, for instance, a closed system,
Uh-huh.
which I think you would even concede that the story of Revelation, the Bible, and everything like is
Sure.
a closed system. It's whatever was in God's purview. Right?
Sure. Why not? Yeah.
Yeah. Any closed system that doesn't have any mechanism or proof of free will, or like a system for free will, that doesn't break down to just cause and effect, is deterministic. Anything that is just cause and effect is deterministic. You even admitted that a few minutes ago when I said the robot people. If it just has a cause and all it is cause and effect in the
Well,
universe,
all
doesn't necessarily have to
things,
have it.
all things that are just cause and effect, like just cause and effect, I guess would be deterministic. But if
Okay, so
free
in what-
will
in what
is a
universe has it?
if free will as something unique from like items in the world or something like that, or like parents or whatever, is a genuine cause of anything, then the causality is not broken. There can be
But I just
free.
asked you to prove free will.
What's that?
I just asked you to prove free will.
Well, again, I don't know if I can prove free will. I'm just saying it is basically as presuppositional to say it doesn't exist as to say that it does exist. But then what you sacrifice by saying it doesn't exist is your direct experience, your moral responsibility, and you actually sacrifice the concept of will itself, because there's nothing that's willed. It's all just played out.
I agree that you have to sacrifice that too. You're just wanting to presuppose that you don't have to.
Well, of course I want to, because otherwise I'd have to be a nihilist. I don't understand how you could be anything other than, well, not a nihilist, but a fatalist. I don't see how you could be anything other than a fatalist if you don't believe in free will. But you're just presupposing it doesn't exist, even though your experience tells you it does. So the presuppositions are equal. They have equal weight. Actually, yeah, I got you. Comic Brandon, why did you decide to type that comment? There you go. Boom. I showed you free will. Okay, gotcha. Did someone force you to do that? If you forced yourself to do it, then that's your own will. So there you go. Brandon, I like when you say, I don't believe untrue things. That is very funny to me. That's like the ultimate, I am the only source of omniscient knowledge. A lot of you in here didn't even believe in God as a kid in a real way. Like you didn't think there actually was a guy. In response to just because something's in response to stimuli doesn't mean that you freely choose how to respond to the stimuli. That's what I would say to that, Brandon. Okay, you're responding to stimuli, so am I. Great. The difference is I freely choose to respond to it. In your worldview, you actually have no choice. There's nothing. If something angers you, you can't not be angry. You can't choose to go the other way. And then you would say, if you did choose to like turn the other cheek or whatever, well, that was predetermined. So there's no value to that choice. God just elected you to do that. Prefrontal cortex. What about it, Brandon? We already talked about this. You can't reduce free will to scientism. It doesn't work. Because then you could easily just say there's something extra scientific that creates the scientific material response. It's the genetic fallacy. Just because you've shown how something happens doesn't mean you've shown why or what the foundational ground of that happening is. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to refill my coffee. And we can go back to the Sapolsky video, Brandon, but if he's just going to explain how the prefrontal cortex works, that's not going to do anything for this argument. All right, sorry, I'm back. Let's see what Brandon got up to. Homeboy Sapolsky responding to stimulus experience and claims without evidence. Don't worry, I'll be here, bud. All right, sweet. Again, you're going to have to explain where free will go when synapses split. It's probably still there. If the brain is still functional, like if you're alive, then you can probably still make free choices. But, maybe not. I mean, I'm not saying your will can't be restricted. Obviously, your will is restricted in many, 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 many ways. I mean, you could literally be made a slave. Or you could probably literally be turned into, like, a robot that can't do anything but obey orders, right? So it's not like... Oh, okay, welcome back, brother. Welcome back.
So, from where I think I left off...
where'd you... Yeah.
You are essentially presupposing free will to feel good. Is essentially where we got at the end of that.
Yeah, and you were essentially proposing non-free will, which I can state positively, you know I can, to support your worldview.
Proposing that. I'm proposing that there is no free will in libertarian senses. I think we feel something to the effect of that, but I think that that's necessarily like predetermined by our biology.
But
how
that
we feel is obviously predetermined by our biology if I'm a determinist.
But that is totally presuppositional. That's just the presupposition that there is nothing other than our biology.
That's the base. No, that's the base thing that we have to believe, because free will has no evidence for it, and cause and effect, which you admitted, if it's a whole system, has to be deterministic and it expulses free will, is the only evidence we have for the universe. Cause and effect is the only thing we've ever found.
You're trying to sneak in this like cause and effect negates free will, but a cause.
Well, absolute cause and effect does, which you agree.
Absolute cause and effect negates free will. Yeah. Explain what you mean by absolute, as in
the world we set up a bit ago, like the hypothetical world we set up a while ago with the robots. Like you have a beginning, you have only cause and effect, you have no mind.
Okay,
no
in a world where there is no free will, then yes, there is no free will. I mean, what do you want me to say?
Well, I'm not saying there's necessarily no free will at the start of that. I'm saying that there is only cause and effect. There is no soul.
Oh, then I would
know,
disagree.
I'm
If there
granting that.
is a possibility of free will in that world, even if there are no souls, then no, that doesn't follow that cause and effect is deterministic. Because my point, which you need to address, is that a free choice is a valid cause. That can be a cause. The ability to do one thing versus the other causes different effects. Do you understand that?
Sorry, I cut out for a minute. The ability to do one thing is the last thing I heard.
Okay, so the ability to do one thing versus the other is a genuine cause. It has differing effects.
Right, but again, you're just saying you have to answer my question. What happens is it still deterministic if there's free will? It's like, well,
What do you mean? Is it still? Well, obviously, it's not deterministic if there's free will. Or what are you saying?
right, you're saying free will can be a cause or an effect.
Yeah.
And so therefore, in a world where there is cause and effects created by free will, is there free will? Like, well, you're kind of just presupposing it's a circular argument.
Well, you were trying to say that in a world which is dictated by cause and effect, there is no free will because free will cannot be a cause.
Well, no, that's not what I was saying. I'm saying in a world, I'm asking you a question. In a world where there is only cause and effect, is there free will? I'm not saying that there is no free will. So what happens if there's only cause and effect?
Okay, got you. Then my
And
answer
your
would be
is-
that's irrelevant to free will. But sure, yeah, there could be or there could not
You
be.
think cause and effect is irrelevant to free will?
Well, not irrelevant, but in a world where there is only cause and effect, does that prove that there's no free will? No, absolutely not. That's
Okay, so
that's my
what
answer.
outside? Sure. So what outside of cause and effect would be in that universe to instantiate free will if it doesn't exclusively?
It doesn't have to be anything outside of cause and effect. Actually, it's within cause and effect. It's a cause coming from the self.
Right, but I'm saying that. Okay, so here's the thing. You're invoking free will into the argument to say free will is possible. That's a circular argument.
Okay. Let's break it down. Let's go a little slower because I'm not sure if that's what I'm doing, but I'll take your word that I'm arguing poorly. So, okay. So in a world where there is cause and effect,
Only cause.
only cause and effect. What outside of cause and effect? So I don't understand how you can ask me that question. Like you're asking me to negate your own.
No. I'm saying. So you said that in a world with cause and effect, free will could still exist. So I'm saying
Absolutely.
what outside of that mechanism is the mechanism in this universe that allows for that, separate from cause and effect.
I might be wrong here, but it seems to me like you're totally presuming that cause and effect equals determinism. Like I don't think it has to be anything outside of cause and effect.
Well, see, I mean, I am presuming that mainly because we talked about it earlier, and you were like, "Yeah, it's just it's that."
I think I might have conceded that too easily because
Sure.
it's free. It's clear that free will causes effects to me. I mean, on the experiential level. So I'm not saying
and
that's
that's
part
the
of the
argument
argument.
that I mean.
That's not
Yeah,
part of the
that's- but
argument. But what was that? Okay, keep going.
But that's the argument that I mean because is that free will can be a cause and effect. So when I say that there is only cause and effect, free will can be in that. However, you are basically saying free will exists in this universe because of free will, which is a circular argument.
Well, you just asked me how. No, I didn't say free will exists in this universe because of free will. I'm just showing that free will is not inconsistent with a universe of cause and effect.
Right. So what is the mechanism other than cause and effect that would allow for free will?
These things are not mutually exclusive. I don't understand why you're framing it this way.
Well, that's why I'm asking why aren't they? Because, for instance,
Why
if I
aren't
asked
they
you,
mutually exclusive?
well, yeah, because I can ask you, for instance, why is
Sorry, you cut out. Why is what?
the color red not mutually exclusive to the color yellow? And you would be like, because they have nothing to do with each other. Now that might be a bit, weird of an analogy because technically yellow is on the spectrum and so is red. But
Right,
whatever.
right.
Let's just say,
Yeah,
what
sure.
what does the
Yeah.
chair have to do with the fucking otter? And it's like, well, nothing. So they don't mutually exclude each other.
Yeah, but you're saying that they are mutually exclusive, so I don't understand that.
Well, no, I'm asking you why they aren't mutually exclusive. That's not the same.
Okay, why they aren't mutually exclusive? Because it's at least to me, and you tell me where I'm wrong about this. It's easily conceivable how a cause, an effect can be freely chosen from a cause or something like that, or that the cause can be freely chosen.
See, and there's what I'm saying is the circular argument. I asked you a question: does cause and effect, negate free will? And you're like, no, because free will can be an effect. And then
Yeah,
when I
of
asked you to
course.
explain
Then
that,
of course it doesn't negate it if it can be an effect. I mean, so
okay,
they're
cool,
not
cool.
mutually
So free
exclusive.
will can be
Yeah.
an effect.
Yeah.
So free will can be an effect. How? How is free will? How is free will a cause and or effect?
If God decides, if the uncaused cause decides to affect free will or whatever, then there you go.
How does he decide anything if it's mutually exclusive to his existence? Because again, we've also gone over this. We don't know what perfect means.
We have a pretty good idea. Aquinas has a pretty good idea of what perfect means. We can get into that
Aquinas
if
has
you
an outdated idea of what it is.
want. No, I don't think so.
Well, it just means the ability to do all that is possible. I think that's different.
I'm not sure if that's exactly what he'd say, but that's definitely part of it. But I think perfection is also then we have to define good, but it's all the goods, having all the goods essentially.
I thought it was all the greats, but
Sure, great, fine, great.
But like that's the thing is that like what are the greats? Like great evil? Is he great evil?
No. Great. Evil is the privation of goods. So anything that falls under evil is definitionally not what is good.
But didn't he create all the what is not good? Because there are not good things, and he created.
I don't think he created anything which is not good. I don't think God can create anything which is not good.
Are humans not good?
No, humans are not good.
But
he created the primordial human who is good, and he created free will, which is good. And by the free will choice of God, of humans, they become bad. So humans create evil using two goods. Just like two evils can cancel each other out, two goods can cancel each other out.
Well, I mean, at most you get neutral at that point. But you're saying that they get a good and get a bad.
Yep, exactly.
Isn't he made up of all the goods that can make bad?
Isn't God made up of all the goods that can make bad? Sure, yeah.
Right, so doesn't...
But he has no part. The goods don't interact like that with each other on the level of God because he has no parts. He is divinely simple. So only in the
special pleading.
No, it's not special pleading. Only in the dense realm that we live in, that of multiplicity and separateness, can two things even interact with each other. Like, for instance, free will and good or whatever, or free will.
So God can't interact with himself.
Not on God the Father's plane, not on the realm. He is divinely simple, and we can go to a.
So how does he interact with Jesus Christ?
Because Jesus Christ exists in this realm. He actually
but he also exists in the divine realm because he is divine.
Yeah. It's a little. They're one being though.
You were about to say contradictory. I fucking heard it.
No, I was gonna say controversial, but I understand. You're trying to sneak something in, but. No, it's controversial, and it's hard to wrap your head around, so we can get into Christology if you want. It's kind of away from what we're talking about, but yeah, we'd have to really examine in what way God is still simple while still having three persons, but I think this is easily explained. So imagine top level of like total unity, where there is absolutely nothing discernible to be separate or parts or anything. There's just oneness on a certain level. Now, one level below that, it starts to become intelligible what that oneness sort of represents on the denser plane, on the more multiplicitous plane. That might be the angel level. Or I would say that would be the Trinity level, and then one level below that would be the angel level, something like that.
Well, no, it can't be the Trinity level below, because technically the Trinity exists on the plane above, because otherwise you're saying God is stronger than Jesus and the Spirit. Or at least
no, I'm saying that the Trinity becomes my intuition, and I don't want to be blasphemous, but my intuition is that the Trinity becomes undistinguishable from pure oneness of all goods, of everything together as one thing, on a certain level of perception. But that's not God the Father. That is the Trinity. That is the Trinity as oneness.
Right, but you can't put God the Father above the Trinity.
That's not what I'm doing. I'm saying God the Father is only even a relevant term on one level below ultimate oneness.
Oh, you're saying the Trinity above God.
The Trinity is God, is the way I'm saying it.
I mean, sure, we can just go with that. But in either way, the whole thing with, I mean, if we want to go back into free will instead of going into Christology, we can. But Christology, I can't remember actually how that's spelled, but
Christology is a fun word. It's just Christ and then ology.
I used to say Christology.
Oh
but
yeah.
My pastor told me that is not how we don't study Christopher here.
Christopher. Yeah.
But the thing that I wanna kind of get at too.
Yeah. What are you trying to get at?
You're saying, and I feel like we're going in circles at some point. So feel.
Yeah, we can move. We'll move on in a second. If we do the exact same like circle again, then we'll just move on. But I do want to let's get back into it one more time. I want to hear what you think.
I cut out. That's what happened.
What's that?
I cut out. That's why I said circle. But basically, I think that if we're taking your worldview,
Yep.
where you have a prime mover,
Uh-huh.
arguably the only thing with free will, is
Yep.
that the thing you're saying, that he can control a deterministic universe, and since he has free will, the rest of the line has free will.
That's not exactly what I would say, but is there another point? I want to make sure I'm addressing all of your point here.
Sure. If that is not the case, or
Yeah.
that's not what you're inferring, I would have to argue
Yeah.
that he is creating a system with rules in which it is a line of cause and effect, in which, other than straight up presuming free will in the effects, of which you can't prove,
Yeah.
other than the fact that you intuit it
Yep.
and you want it,
Yep.
that it would have to describe as basically a story. And the book, if you're reading a book, doesn't change each time you read it.
Right. Okay. So where do you want me to jump? So to still that point again, because it's a little confused. You're saying, or you're proposing that my worldview it should negate free will because God knows the whole story. Is that essentially?
Not necessarily. I'm just putting my worldview in yours, but adding God. Adding God as the initial mover, because I think that we don't know what the beginning of the universe is.
Sure.
I'm just going, that's God. And I guess some of the Genesis story is true. And so we still get to the exact same place, except God started.
Yeah, I'm just not exactly sure why God could not add in the confounding factor or whatever, the free will.
Well, because I can't find any way to add free will that wouldn't be contradictory of the process.
You can't define God and free will in any way that would be contradictory. Is that what you said?
Not God necessarily. I think that if you want to add God and just presuppose him, I think that's fine for the argument of free will.
Okay.
Unless you want to just say he can do free will.
But you can't find a way to reconcile the deterministic element of the universe and the potential for free will within that deterministic framework.
Correct, because even if you're going forward and you're reading the book for the first time, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying, is that
Yeah.
we're going through the book for the first time.
Sure. I mean, sure. I guess we are. Yeah.
Oh, I think I cut out again.
Yeah. You did a little bit. So, but you left off on if you're reading the book for the first time, and I guess you're going to say that doesn't mean that whatever is going to happen in the next chapter just can be different.
Exactly, and since God knows what's going to happen, the chapter does exist.
But how about the more accurate analogy would be that we and God together are writing the book right now. And God's a little smarter than us, so he can go and he can step out of, I mean, really he lives out there, but if he's with us, assume he's with us and observing or whatever, he can step out of this time, this moment where the book is being written, and he can jump ahead to chapter 18 or whatever and see what's going on in that chapter.
Oh, I agree that he can cross out certain words and add his own words, tear out whole pages and write new chapters. I agree with that.
But I think he gives us the power to do that as well. That's the only difference. We're writing the book together. You're saying he already wrote the book. He writes the book alone. That's the end of the story. I'm saying together we write the book.
No, I know what you're saying, but I'm asking how that's even possible, because you can't give the words of the characters in a book the ability to write their own story when the book exists. Their story's already laid out. They can't go against the plan of God.
Well, then what is a video game?
Then what is a video game?
Mm-hmm.
Lines of code.
Sure, but don't you make choices? Doesn't the character, hypothetically, I mean, I know it's a little complicated because it's like your avatar or something like that. Doesn't
I don't
the
think this is a
don't
good thing for you to go to because this is literally a computer.
I'm not sure if it's actually bad for me to go into the video game as an analogy.
It's either a computer or it's a person who we're already talking about in the book as playing a computer. So we're just talking about people.
Okay, fine. I mean, yeah, I think God is a person, so, or has a personhood, but
He
okay.
has an identity. I wouldn't say person.
I would say
Because he had
I actually would say he has three persons. So,
reconcile with humanity, I suppose.
yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to something else. I think we've sort of
now he has a
exhausted the
personhood
free
because
will
he's-
thing. I mean, fundamentally, you just don't see how that you see this as a contradiction that the characters in the book could contribute to or even write their own chapters.
Not necessarily contribute to, but definitely write their own chapters because like they are going through the book, right? Like for instance, if I say Tom walks down
Yeah.
the prairie,
Yeah.
Tom is walking down the prairie and contributing to the story. Can he go against the story? No, absolutely not.
Yeah, yeah.
Like think of the book that exists as the predictions of God,
Yeah.
and the current timeline as God reading the book. Because I think you would agree that he instantiates time. Like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's just not how I'm going to think of I'm going to think of it with a little bit of a different light. I'm going to think of it as God using us as people as the pen to write the book, and the pen weirdly also gets to choose what words exactly it wants to say, even if it can't change the meta narrative. Like we're going to end up on the final battle will take place on Venus or whatever. You can change whether the protagonist, you in this analogy, wears a blue shirt or a red shirt. That's about as simple as
But
I
you're
wanna
just saying it can do that. You're not saying why.
Yeah, well, you're not really saying why it can't either.
Well, I think it can't because any cause and effect system, necessarily, if you look forward or backward in, let's say, the book, doesn't change. Doesn't change retroactively. It couldn't have been any other way because it's always written.
It couldn't have. Please break, because you kept saying this yesterday. Break apart what you mean by it couldn't have been any other way.
Okay, so for instance, because we're talking about your worldview,
Yeah.
God knows exactly what you're going to do. Can you not do that?
Yep. Yes, but then he would just know that I didn't do that. Do you understand? It is.
Sorry, I actually cut out when you started.
Okay. So
explaining.
you said okay. So God knows everything I'm gonna do. Could I do something that He doesn't know I'm going to do? Is that's how you say it?
I was more saying, could you go against his prediction and make a different choice?
Could I go against his prediction and make a different choice? Yes, absolutely. But if I did that, then his prediction would change.
Wait. So you're saying we prescribe God's predictions?
No, but I'm saying that I genuinely have a choice to do something, red or blue shirt. God knows every single detail. He has all the data of every atom bouncing around, and he can predict accurately 100% of the time.
Can determine even.
You could say that he can determine what I'm going to do, but you're using it a little cheekily because it's not exactly what you mean by deterministic. He can determine
exactly
as in
what I mean by deterministic.
no, it's not. You're
you
saying
know
it's
every factor
deterministic
in the
as
universe.
in I have no other that I could not do anything else. False. I can do anything else, but he knows what I'm going to do because he knows me
Exactly. So you
best.
can't do anything else.
You absolutely can. He just knows what you're going to do.
If he knows what you're going to do, you couldn't have done anything else.
That's not true.
This is what we talked about.
Yeah.
This is the very similar conversation.
Yeah. What's your take on this, Sean? Any input here?
Oh, this is Sean.
No, this is not Sean.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. All right,
good.
welcome to the Discord, brother. Sorry I didn't welcome you in earlier. I thought this was Sean lurking, waiting to give us Aquinas. Aquinas quotes.
God,
No, but I do enjoy the Aquinas lore.
It's
No,
fun. Okay.
this is
Yeah,
very
so-
similar to when I think the way I described it to you was
Yep.
like a tree root system where every decision you could possibly make, and you pick one of those decisions, and God knows all the decisions, but not specifically the one that you
Yep.
make.
Yep.
Except that he would know the path you would go down anyway. I think that's
Yeah. So this is what you guys are describing. If you can see my MS Paint.
Okay.
Okay.
I do love the MS Paint.
I know, isn't it fun? This is what you guys are describing. A timeline. A deterministic, everything plays out. There's no possibility of change.
That's God's predictions right there.
Sure, yeah, that's how you're defining God's predictions. This is not how I define.
That's a line of actions that he predicts.
Sure, yeah, in your definition, this is how you see the way that God predicts things. Let me show you how I see it.
It's even what you see it, because you're saying we can retroactively change it. So
No,
this
it's
is
not.
The first one.
No, it's not. You can't retroactively change it. This is how I see it.
Oh, did I cut out or?
Oh no, can you hear me? I'm just drawing, so I'm a little focused. This is how I see it.
Okay.
This is the tree root.
There are tons of timelines. There are tons of options. There are tons of things you can do. And just
Right,
because
Doesn't he know which one you would go down?
yeah,
Wait, but
that
hold on.
this
Yeah,
is
you
the
view-
way. This
you
is
view it as Back to the Future. Yeah.
let me show you. The way in which he knows what you're going to do is important. You guys are saying he knows what you're going to do because you're determined to do it. I'm saying no, you can do any of these things, but he exists out. You genuinely, freely can choose to keep going on this one or keep going on this one or switch it up here or switch it up there and go there.
Except you can't because he knows which
he's
one you're going to go down.
outside of time. He can look in and see which one you're at.
Do you go down one of them?
You choose to go down one of them freely, yes.
I mean, by the end of the day, you go down one of them.
At the end of the day, you do go down one of them, yes.
Is God right about which ones you go down?
Yes.
Okay, so the other ones don't exist.
They do exist. So this is why it's hard to argue with you, because you don't even believe in the philosophically unanimously accepted, unless you can show me where it's not accepted, idea of possible worlds. So
Even
on
if we
what
want to get into
basis?
possible worlds, even if we want to get into possible worlds,
Yeah.
there would be another you taking those other branches. He would know that person's destiny.
Well, for one thing, this is going to trip you up, but I'm not sure that there isn't another me taking all these, and I'm not sure that God isn't checking in on this guy too.
Oh yeah, then that makes it even worse. He knows all these tree branches, and he knows which ones of you are going to take which branches.
Yeah, I'm not sticking to that. That's not dogma. I don't know about that, but just saying that as a possibility. But yeah, if basically every possible reality exists, then God would know every possible reality. But that doesn't. You're not negating free will here. You're just not negating free will by saying.
For all
that God
intents
can
and
look at-
purposes, the other timelines that would be the different yous, it doesn't matter to the you right now.
Correct.
No, you're right. It
really
doesn't.
The you right now, he can track that anyway. In
Well,
this
the
scenario.
reason it matters to the me right now is because then I'm actually held more. There's a reason to hold me morally accountable for which path I decide to go down. Like if this is start a Holocaust and this is don't start a Holocaust, it actually matters which one I choose, and I actually have the choice to do it.
Also, I'll put it to you like this: are there
yeah.
two yous in that scenario? Like, let's just go with that. Like, I'm not saying you believe it, but like,
Sure.
there's two yous,
Let's
and
go.
there's the
So
one.
in this scenario, yeah, I guess there's two like dimensions of me or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Going to go down one of these. He's going to go down the one. One of you is going to go down the genocide route.
Sure. Say this is
The
the
other one's going
genocide
to-
route.
Yeah, the other one is not going to go down that route.
Right.
So it's determined, and he judges you for it anyway.
Well, yeah, he would judge this guy, which is great.
Are there
right?
multiple
Send-
of
send
you
that
in
guy to
had no
heaven?
choice.
Send that guy to
but
hell.
Go down that branch.
What's that?
That guy had no other choice than to go down that branch because you were just
Yeah.
to go down the
That,
other
that
branch.
that's why I haven't really thought this through, and why I don't really love the like infinite dimensions theory of this. But
Even the limited dimensions means that there's
no, if
no
there's
possibility.
if there's limited dimensions and it works like this, where like I can either go Holocaust route or not Holocaust route, and then this is probably the traditional way to see it is like I make this choice to go do a Holocaust, then this one just suddenly doesn't exist anymore. That's probably the more traditional way to see it. I think that's probably what I have to defend.
Right, so he knows the ones that don't exist. He knows the ones that will never exist or will disappear. and he knows the right path, and that's fate. And
Yeah,
so that's deterministic.
It's it's a little bit of a shallow, narrow view on your part to say that this is not a choice just because he knows that you're going to do it. If I know you well enough,
Hey,
if I know you're my good friend, I know that there's I have a skateboard in my house, and I know you just love skateboarding, and I have a ramp in my front yard. If I predict accurately that you are going to like do a trick on the ramp, in what sense did I force you to do that? In what sense did I take away your free choice to either do a trick on my skateboard ramp or not do it?
oh, you didn't, but you're not omniscient.
Right. And I'm saying omniscience doesn't change that.
It does because
It
you
doesn't.
made
It's
the
just
universe.
more, it's just that he knows more. He just knows all the details. He knows all the quantum effects. He
created-
knows all the atoms and things like that. But
he
there
created
is
all those
no
things.
doesn't matter. There's no correlation. No, it doesn't. There is no correlation between knowing something and forcing that person to do the thing you know they're going to do.
Oh no, I agree in that. I agree. That's not my argument.
Okay.
You're viewing it. You're viewing it as I say he knows it, therefore he's determining you to do it. I'm saying
Yeah.
that he determined the universe to exist in, therefore you're determined to do it.
But
he
you-
created
that-
everything in the universe in a certain way.
That is
certain
presuppositional
way
by
means
you.
that.
You're the way you're presupposing he created the universe is deterministically, without free will. That because he determines all these laws and like sort of rules of the game, that he somehow determines your choices to obey certain rules or do certain things, or I mean, you have to obey the ones that you have to obey, the law of like identity or
Law of
gravity
gravity
or
and shit
something
like
like all the ones you have to obey, obviously.
What about the ones in my synapses and my brain and
Yeah,
my
you
soul?
you probably have to obey a lot of those.
A lot of them, but not some of them.
Well, like, yeah, obviously you don't have to obey everything your brain tells you to do. Like for an addict.
Like why?
What do you mean why? Probably because you want something better for yourself.
Right, so you want it, but why do I want it?
Because you actually want it, is what I'm gonna say.
Right, but that's a circular argument.
Why do I want it? So I know what you want me to say, which is because you have absolutely no choice over your wants. You can't will what you will. There's no reality to the perception of will and want and free will, because you can always trace every cause back to a material, finite, possible cause.
Not necessarily material, not necessarily material. Anything with rules, even the metacausal, still a deterministic universe.
Yeah, you cut out, but I think I understand what you're saying. Anything that has rules can and obeys cause and effect is necessarily deterministic. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily cause and effect. Any system like cause and effect that has deterministic rules, yes. Because
okay, so
unless you
what
can
you're
give me something that
then
isn't
but
determined.
then you're combating my supposedly circular argument with a even more circular argument. Any system that has deterministic rules is deterministic. Agreed.
Anything that only has deterministic rules. I'm
Yeah.
asking for you to give me an exception, and you have not.
How about the actual direct experience of non-determinism? But anyway, regardless of that,
No.
you're saying in the deterministic, in a set of rules or in some reality that only has deterministic rules, there is only determinism. I completely agree with you. But you're not showing anything about how you could not create a set of rules which are not deterministic.
Right, that's not my job, that's your job.
How is that my job? That's your
'Cause
job.
that's the only way your thing works.
If there is that you can create rules
And have free will.
and have free will. Well, obviously you can do that. A chess game has rules, and you can freely choose where to move each piece.
Except I don't think you can freely choose to do that. So what's the mechanism behind doing that?
Choice. Choice is the mechanism behind that.
Okay, what's the mechanism by choice? Explain choice to me. That doesn't eventually boil down to rules.
You want me to explain a fundamental metaphysical thing to you using language that you want to be deterministic.
I don't want it to be
Choice
deterministic.
is
I
as
don't want it to
fundamental
be.
as life. Define life for me. I mean, what are you asking me?
What kind of definition do you want for life? You want a philosophical definition for
Sure,
life or a
what-
scientific one?
Give me the exact type of definition for life that you want for choice.
I mean, what do you mean for choice?
So
I'm asking you the question about what choice is, so I don't know why you want me to give you a definition for.
okay, that you could do something else. That there are possible worlds is what I'm going to
Okay.
define as choice. You
Okay,
actually
if there are
could
possible worlds, I
do
still do
something
think
else.
that well, if there are possible worlds and there are multiple instances of you, I still think that those instances of you don't have free will because they're those instances of you and not this one.
Okay, I thought you were going to define life for me on in the same way that I just defined choice.
I mean, sure, I can define life. Life would be anything that has a experience.
Okay, that's interesting.
Anything that
can get
can
behind that.
subjective experience. Anything that can experience a subjective experience.
Okay. So then if I was trying to be a real bastard and like really like catch you out and try to sort of like circle you into a corner and say that you can't prove life, that you can't even state life to exist, like you're trying to say that I can't even state choice to possibly exist, then I would just keep
Well, I
asking
have
you
a
to
subjective
define experience and okay, what's experience then? You know, and we can do this all day,
but I have a subjective experience. And if you
yeah,
want
and
to,
I'm saying
if you want to define experience, then I can just say something I feel. And if you want me to define feel, then I
yeah.
can just say something I experienced. Some
Okay.
things are just circular in terms of their
And that's what I'm
linguistic
saying about
definition.
choice. And you're saying that I can't do that because it's circular linguistically, but choice just is choice. It's totally fundamental.
Except that mine leads to a deterministic view, which is fine with circular reasoning. Yours does not. It leads to something in which you have to have some sort of randomness, which you can't explain causally.
No, I don't have to have randomness. I just have to say that the cause is is a free choice.
How do you define free choice? The cause to be the ability to
it's
do
just
other than
how do you
one.
define experience? It's the exact same thing. You can just have a
is
choice. You
not.
know what it is. You know exactly what it is, and you're pretending that you don't. But
Okay,
why?
that's hey. I don't appreciate that.
Okay,
But
sorry.
I will say,
Keep
I
going.
will say this:
Yeah.
if I say experience is the most base thing that life can go through,
Yes.
that is a reasonable definition.
Okay.
You can't give me, for the purposes of explaining free will, a definition of choice that doesn't just boil down to phenomena that determine your choice.
Why? But why can't I do that? Why can't I just say choice
Well,
is
because you haven't done it.
choice is the possibility of choosing one thing or another? In what sense is that
Spider-Man lives
less?
in New York.
How is that less robust than your definition of experience? I don't understand.
It's not. No, it's not less robust. It has less proof. Like Spider-Man is a spider person that lives in New York. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's still a robust definition.
Okay. So why are you trying to take apart my definition?
Because it doesn't work for the purposes of the argument, is my point. Mine does. I experience things. The only thing that can't prove that to you is because of the problem of hard solipsism, which I assume you know.
Hard solipsism. How does that differentiate from normal solipsism?
Hard solipsism is people who believe actively they are the only person that exists.
Oh, okay.
The
Yeah,
only
yeah,
mind that exists.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so like that's the problem of solipsism. Anything eventually boils down to that. But when we engage in the universe, if we engage in the world,
Yeah.
presuppose it exists, which is something we have to do.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I cut out. Which is something we presuppose we have to do.
Okay.
Then we can construct models within what our experiences give us. What
Yes.
experience have you gone through other than the feeling of the thing that proves or grants evidence of, other than again the feeling of the thing, that you have the ability to have done otherwise in the past, when all we know about the universe is that cause and effect, 1 + 1 equaling 2,
Yeah.
always equals 2. It never can equal 3. Like, if it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense for me to say it could have chosen to be 3.
Right. I understand that. But you don't see the difference between like a mathematical truth and like action by an agent?
No, because 1 + 1 can describe actions. One action plus one action equals second action.
Okay. But that doesn't mean that they wait, what? How is that relevant?
Okay.
That 1 plus just because 1 + 1 can describe actions doesn't mean it is the same thing as an action. It's obviously not. Those are abstract mathematical truths.
Correct, but they are mathematical truths. That's my point. 1
Yeah.
+ 1 always equals 2.
And I'm
Right,
talking
let's
about
say if
an
we're in a- let's
experiential
say-
truth. So why is that
Right.
less valid than your?
Well, an experiential truth will always be less valid if it's not corroborated by existing evidence. If we're talking about existing in the world, right? Like, no matter how much you experience the world being flat, I don't care. Like,
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that. But this is not in the realm of science. Like, so mathematical truths are proved within the realm of math, but you're trying to prove an experiential, or you're trying to disprove an experiential truth in the realm of science, in the realm of, I don't even know
science,
what.
philosophy, and math.
I'm still shaky on the philosophical grounding of there being no other possible worlds. You have to explain that.
Well, I mean, you haven't proved them. I don't think they can exist because no one has ever demonstrated one.
But you demonstrated every single time you imagine making any choice.
That's in this universe.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about
Yeah.
real existent material. No, do you know what a possible world is? Have you heard about this?
I mean, get it up there for the viewers.
Yeah. A possible world is, if I remember correctly, it is anything which is contradictory or something like that. And so that doesn't mean it's existent. That doesn't mean it's material. It just means anything that is non-contradictory. And you're saying you don't even believe in that.
I don't
So-
think that they exist, yeah.
But you're talking about it, so it exists in the same way that nothing exists or whatever.
But nothing doesn't exist. That's the definition.
Yeah,
Also,
exactly,
one second.
exactly. So
You
Then
can
it
have
would
your-
be a concept.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
describing a
Return.
concept, not the literal thing.
not
Liv,
the
you can have your
literal
turn.
thing.
I'm going to be gone for a minute.
Okay, yeah. So, Libbabs, is that? Remind me your name one more time. It's Ben, right?
No, Liam.
Oh, Liam. Okay, sorry, I get all confused. Okay,
You're
so
good. I'm bad with names.
so
I
you
get
so
it.
tell me where you weigh in on this thing. Do you agree with our other friend here, Infamous, that there is no such it's not valid to imagine anything. It's not valid to imagine things that are non-contradictory as existent.
It's not what to what.
Okay, so it's your belief. Are you a determinist, or do you believe in free will?
A determinist.
Hey, Alex. Yeah, we're just talking about free will. We're getting really in the weeds here. I think I'm losing a little bit of patience. I snapped at our friend here, which I shouldn't have done. But we're talking about free will and determinism. It's a very heady topic, and it's tough. But so you're a determinist. So you believe there's no sense in which you could have chosen to wear a different shirt than you're wearing right now.
Down this timeline, no.
Down this timeline. But you can't even imagine
Yeah.
it. You can't even imagine a world in which you could have done that.
No, I can imagine it, but
Okay.
I'm imagining it on this timeline right now.
So even the
I'm trying to
imagination,
incorporate
even the
your timeline.
imagination of it is like sort of determined or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And is that on a scientific basis, or why do you believe that?
Well, I think Infamous summed it up way better than I could ever.
No, I get you. I just get confused by some of his language because he really speaks authoritatively about things that are his own presuppositions. So it's hard to like point out what is presuppositional to him. But anyway,
Well, I think what he was getting at
yeah. What do you? What's your take
before
on what he was
with
saying?
choices, and the question that I wonder, which
Mm-hmm.
is what eventually made me think that we probably do not have free will, which is at what point do you, as yourself,
Mm-hmm.
no other influences, nothing else, make a decision? What point do you come in? And you can
Yeah.
keep tracing back why you as the body made a decision based on, well,
Okay.
I smoked another cigarette because my brain synapses are saying, hey,
Yep.
we're addicted to nicotine. We need
Yep.
more.
Yep.
You can keep tracing that back.
And
At what point
sure.
do you come in?
Sure,
Did you
I'm
answer
gonna
at
say-
what point you
yeah,
come
yeah.
in, and not as just, well, choice is choice. I still made the choice, but like
Yeah.
not based on any other influence. When did you come in?
Well, I reject that. This is what our friend was trying to tell me earlier, impart on me earlier, that just because free choices are causal in nature, that something informed your choice, I'm going to say that doesn't mean it's not a free choice. So to the question of at what point do I come in? Does myself come in when making the decision, say, not to smoke another cigarette? I'm going to say it comes in at the point that myself decides not to. So it can be a combination of a bunch of different factors. It can be the mental thing. It can be like, I mean, really, you can also fight with yourself, which would prove free will even more. So if I really, really, really want to smoke that cigarette, like I just have this compulsion and this neurological sort of like predisposition to smoke a bunch of cigarettes, then my soul or my mind, apart from my brain, apart from the neurology, like the actual mind part of it, the thing that holds imagination, holds concepts, dreams, things like that, whatever. My mind can say, no, that's actually really bad for you. You're trying to become a better person. So it will fight my brain, my neurology, and it will help me make the decision to not smoke that next cigarette. But at every step of this,
all those other wants are based on things you know because of other stimuli you've experienced, such as smoking ads.
Yeah, you're tackling two choices. And
wants.
if you take each choice or two outcomes individually, if you take them individually, you can still trace back what led to that.
Yeah,
just
and
because you can
just
trace
add
it,
more.
but what you're tracing it back to ultimately is the self. In this case of the cigarette.
Well,
so
I'm
it's
asking
still
what
your
that is.
free will.
Right, but you're invoking these words as if they're a magical ex machina. What is this process that they go through that makes it so that it's not a deterministic system?
I mean, you want me to explain the quantum process? I don't know how to do that. That's not possible. Like, you want me to explain it scientifically
case,
or
then I would-
conceptually or experientially? Which way? Because I can't explain it.
Pick any three.
Okay. Experientially, it's obvious. That's just what you experience. I mean, do you deny that?
You meant experience. I mean, you meant experience as in I feel it's true. I mean, I don't think that's proof. So.
No. More than I feel it's true. Like, this is how you live your life and how we order society because this is how everybody lives their life.
Yeah, that can be explained with evolution.
Okay, I agree. It can be explained, but that's just one way in which you can start to pick up on the idea that, hey, maybe there actually is a thing out here. Okay, then
The same
philosophically,
way you can say, but that's the same way you can pick up on any idea that's presupposed. Doesn't
yeah,
mean it's true.
yeah, but it doesn't mean it's false either. Okay, so I'm trying to
I
prove
agree
that.
with you.
Yeah, right. So we're trying to prove. I know I'm not going to prove free will to you, but I'm trying to demonstrate that it's basically on equal footing with the denial of free will. Okay, so then philosophically you go, oh, what the hell? No, you can't, because you can trace every cause back to another cause. It's like, yeah, but if the causes are within the self, at whatever point they enter into the fuller
But see, you're
corpus
doing it
of the
again.
self. What am I
You're
doing?
doing it again.
What am I doing?
What is the self and how does it? Like, you're just invoking self as an ex machina. Like, what is the self in a way that actually explains the mechanistic properties of free will? How does it get out of this deterministic system? What's the method? If you can't explain that, why believe it?
Also, the external stimuli entering the self. If the
Also gets
stimuli
processed through
was
the mind.
different,
Yeah.
then would you make a different decision?
Yeah, of course you would.
Because that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
There you go. Different stimuli equals different decisions.
But
therefore all
you
stimuli-
don't know.
all
No, that's
decisions
not
are
what you're
based on
saying, because
stimuli.
you don't even believe in different decisions. So there's that. I mean, so you can't just say, would you do something different? But then within your worldview, there is nothing
That's
different.
why I said if.
Yeah. Okay, so if you could do something different, that already defines free will. There it is.
No, I'm saying if something else happened. Not that you could do something else. Those are two different statements. Hypotheticals are not the same as possible reality.
Okay, so if you could do something else,
If a square circle exists,
yeah,
not a possible world.
I
It doesn't
agree.
exist.
But you don't believe in any possible world, so I don't know how you're drawing on that as an argument.
Because I'm arguing within your world.
Okay.
I don't believe in it, and you're invoking it. So
Got you. Okay, so we have to go back to at what point does the mechanism? You're asking me to describe what the mechanism of free will is. Isn't that
Yeah,
kind
how
of,
does it
isn't that kind of like
obviate-
asking? Isn't that kind of like asking me to describe what the mechanism of consciousness is? Like, obviously, I believe in consciousness, I experience it, but I have no freaking clue.
Right, but I
what
believe
the
in it too,
mechanism-
but I don't. I believe in it too, but I don't think that it magically escapes some sort of deterministic system. You do, so I'm asking for that mechanism.
Well, it doesn't have to be magic, but
What's the justification?
wait.
Magic would actually be an okay explanation if you believe in magic, but I don't think you can prove it.
I do believe in magic generally. I don't think I can prove it, so I'm not really going to go there. But
Right. I mean, it would explain it.
it definitely would explain it. So fundamentally, I guess, yeah, the reason I'm like sticking to this, even though I can't eloquently and perfectly describe to you what my response to the free will problem is my faith, truly, that at the end of the day. And so I know that's never going to convince anybody, but having faith in free will
Grants you a bunch of benefits.
Grants me benefits and grants society benefits that should not be discarded, certainly.
Well, sure, yeah. If we gave them all up today, I think there'd be mass fucking hysteria. I don't think people would be able to adapt to that.
Well, it'd just be depression. It would be completely. It would be completely.
I definitely think there would be people that are depressed. I don't know what the effects would be because I don't know how many people experience this.
Yeah. Well, everybody. I mean, do you deny that basically maybe there's a few, people that don't, but basically everybody experiences and affirms the freedom of their choice to do things and their responsibility for making choices, given the fact that they can choose other things?
I think they act as if that's the case. I don't know if they believe that, feel that, because I don't. But it might be a large proportion. Okay, with conceding.
But given your worldview, so would you say that a worldview should be adopted regardless of what the effect on society is?
No. In the same way that a child shouldn't not believe in Santa just because it's true.
Right.
I think there are some good falsehoods that exist.
Some good
to butt in here. Alex in the chat.
Yeah.
Wants the Discord invite. You jump in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me throw that.
Oh shit.
Even more people.
Hell yeah. And we might start to have to limit the number depending on how many people want to join. But okay, so wait, let's read Alex what he was writing. Are you an EAC, Alex? I love that. Or was that in some other chat? That's awesome, bro. I'm an accelerationist as well.
So guys, an acceleration.
It's freaking hype, bro. I love it. I'm not afraid of AI. That's what it means to me.
Yeah, pretty much. So,
okay.
Oh my God.
I wanted to hope a little bit on the debate. I don't know if you can hear me well.
Yeah, we can hear you.
But basically, can you present your strongest argument against free will, just straight up, TLDR?
Yeah, who wants to tackle that? Let's let Infamous tackle that, because it should be pretty easy. You basically have. I could even form it for you if you want.
I mean, what do you I don't know why I have to give one. It hasn't been proved. I don't know why I need to give an argument against something that hasn't been proved.
Well, of course you need an argument against something that hasn't been proved. I mean, what? That's what the whole thing. That's what the whole thing is.
Wait a second. Okay, how would you imagine a being that has free will? In what way should we act in order to have free will? How could you describe free will?
I couldn't. That's what I've been asking him to do the whole time.
Everything we're doing right now is free will, straight up.
That's a presupposition.
Yeah, but it's the most obvious one to make.
No, but what's the
so it was flat Earth at one point. You know what I mean?
What's the alternative?
What is the alternative?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good argument for what we should actually believe?
Well, he's trying. Hey, give him the benefit of the doubt. Give him the benefit of the doubt. We don't know.
We should listen. We should have certain variants and theories about what reality is. So we can say the Earth is flat, and then we obviously see that it's not flat. But we couldn't ever come to that conclusion if we didn't initially imagine that it might not be flat and then start to actually look into it.
Right.
I'm actually English, not my first. Yeah, I mean, my point is, I just don't get how when people are arguing against free will, in their minds, how would a being that actually has free will could act? What would be the difference between, let's say, me or whoever and versus somebody who actually has free will? How would our behaviors differ?
So that's why I don't know. That's why I've been asking him for the whole time, because I don't.
But I think Alex's point is you don't know, but you can't even imagine what it's like to have more free will than we have now.
Well, I don't think we have free will, right?
I know,
So I
but
wanna know
that's
what's
your
that.
presupposition. So don't accuse us of making presuppositional statements. You're just
Okay,
presupposing that we don't have it.
let me present my argument
Yes.
in other words. Fuck, I forgot my words. What makes you believe that we don't have free will? I guess that's a good way to say it.
Sure. I mean, what gives me an indicator as to why we should, like, it doesn't seem that we have free will, despite the feeling that we do.
Yeah, but why? Why?
Is-
What made you believe
I
that?
was getting to that. Is the fact that everything we do, all decisions we make, are informed by some sort of stimuli. Would you agree to that? Yes or no? Just a yes or no.
No,
You don't think that all of our decisions are informed via stimuli?
no,
Interesting.
Okay,
I
what
might
instance-
have
what-
to agree with Alex on this.
no.
Okay,
Of
go-
course,
go, Alex.
of course not.
Okay. What instances of a choice is not informed by stimuli with proof?
Yeah.
Or forget the proof. Just think of any sort of any possible choice that can be
Pretty.
made.
I'm
without
speaking for
stimuli.
myself personally. For myself.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
sometimes when I'm sad, I drink alcohol. Sometimes when I'm sad, I don't drink alcohol. There you go. That's the choice. I
There
can
you go.
like if we truly didn't have free will, every time I'm sad, I'm like, okay, I have to drink alcohol. Where is the bottle?
Except that's not the same instance every single time. There are slight variations in all of those things. If you went back in time with a time machine to when you
Yep.
made the choice to drink, you would be drinking. If I went a page back in a book, and in the back page when I first read it, he jumped into a lake, and then I go a page forward, and then I go back, he still jumps into the lake.
Yeah, but what
But
if
that's
what if
the-
what if
that-
you're trying
that's
to, we're
the-
talking about when you're going forward and the next page
No, but
hasn't been
wait,
written yet.
yo, I'm
Right, but the stimuli is never the same going forward.
Okay,
It's a
sorry,
different
sorry,
time, it's a
Alex,
different
you-
place.
By
Alex
the way,
wanted to say something. Let
I
Alex
just want to say don't want to came like a rude or anything. I'm just like friendly debate and shit. Like don't think anything personal. Just saying. But
Yeah.
for example, that would be that's basically the chain of actions. Like even if we anything like the most absolute free will you can like exist ever. Like even whatever
Is what?
happens,
I don't know what that
basically,
is.
if we go back in time, we will see that we are you are explaining time travel or something like basically. No, how does that disprove the actual free will? Because you're just
Yeah.
going back and say, okay, that happened.
Yeah.
Okay, that
It's
happened.
true,
Yeah, that
because
was
it's
my
relevant
choice.
to free will.
Because you would have always made the same choice.
No, you're just
Why?
going back
I don't
and
know. I don't
observing
know
something
that.
that you already did. We're talking about when you make a
don't know that. If you're
choice.
saying if you went back in, are you saying when you went back in time, you would different one out of like 100 times?
That what?
No, but the thing is, see 1 second. If I draw a picture now on the wall or something, and yeah, that's not a good example. Basically, okay, okay, let's say that if I go back in time when my mother gave birth to me, and if hypothetically if I can go back in time and see that event happen, that happened, and there you go. That actually, I mean,
Correct.
I just don't get that argument because you're basically saying, okay, we can go back in time and see what happened. Okay, but that doesn't change.
Yeah, it
we
doesn't
can't
say anything
replicate
about free
the
will.
event. But here's the thing: we can't replicate the event. So when you're saying, "Oh, well, I mean, if
Why
I drink
not?
in one case because I'm sad, and I don't drink another time because it's not the same time, you're not the same person. You could be 3 days later. There could be different information that
Yeah,
you
but
have.
you're
You
just
learn more
Yeah, but
as you get
that's exactly
presuming-
free will.
But yeah, you're presuming that there's no
it's
free
not. It's
will
the
just
stimuli
because.
changing.
Yeah, but just because you go back in time and examine that, okay, given all these circumstances.
Okay, what if I drink and I'm not neither sad nor happy? I'm just like, I'm going to go get a drink. There you go.
Or what? Why?
Just
or,
like that.
I
Or
don't know what
what
point
about
you're
when
making
you-
there. I have no idea what point you're making.
Okay,
I mean,
wait. Alex, let me make
that's
a
the point, by the way. Wait, yo, that's a good point for free will because you don't even like get the point I make, and I'm kind of sleepy because I'm in Europe. But my point is,
I'm also in Europe.
oh, nice. I can basically do anything I want pretty much. And how is this?
Presupposition.
Okay, wait. Let me make a point here. Okay, so in the time traveling example, just because you travel back in time and witness the thing that you did, does not mean you didn't choose to do it. There's no sense in which that rules out the free choice.
I'll put it to you like this, right?
Yeah.
Let's say it's not time travel.
Okay.
Let's say somehow God is my best friend.
Okay.
And I'm like, dude, listen, I need you to recreate everything, every single thing that happened that night.
Yep.
Right? New instance, right?
Yep.
Technically, it just speeds everything up.
Yep.
So you can do that. Would I make a different choice?
It's up to you, yeah. Because the
knows?
thing that you're for leaving out is that one of the factors influencing what you're actually going to do is what you choose to do. So God could say, if you have free will, God could say, yeah, I'm gonna put you in this situation. I'm gonna reform and remake every single factor to perfection. You could still choose to do the other thing because that is one of the factors. That is one of the factors.
But do you not see what you just did? If you have free will, or if God gives you free will, then the answer is yes.
Well,
Of course, the answer is yes.
And
if
you're
he
saying
gives you
if
free
you
will.
don't have free will, then the answer is no. Like you're doing the exact same thing.
I'm
but
not doing
you
that, but that is
sacrifice.
true. I am not doing that. But
How
that
are you
is
not
true.
doing that?
What I'm saying, because what I'm saying is there's no evidence for free will other than the fact that you can say that there is no evidence against free will.
No. Okay,
That's the only
but that's the
thing you
point
have.
of this. That's the point of this. I'm saying there's no evidence for free will. There's no evidence against free will. But you're choosing the one in which you have to sacrifice what your experience is and your moral responsibility for making choices.
I don't sacrifice my moral responsibility. You think I
Yes,
do.
you do, bro. You didn't
You
choose
think I do.
anything. You didn't choose to do anything wrong. If you cheat on your wife, under your view, you were absolutely 100% of the time
Destructives to society objectively.
always
so
gonna. You can still be punished under your view, but you can't be accountable.
which is a moral system.
It's not accountability because it's not your fault, is it?
I don't care about accountability. I care about punishment for the wrongdoings of crimes.
Okay, wait, I thought that was accountability.
I mean, it is technically, but I really don't care about the word, to be honest.
But so
Whatever,
you
I
don't
think-
care
I think
about
you're using
moral
it differently than I
responsibility.
am.
You don't care about moral accountability. You don't think there's any
It
moral
technically
choice.
is. No, but it technically is, but you view it differently because we have different systems. You think accountability means a different thing than I do.
Okay,
So I'm
so
just
okay,
using
fine,
that as
fine.
a-
But
that's
you don't
just-
believe
That-
on the
that's-
accountability for the sake of itself, like objective accountability or whatever. I'm guessing. I know you don't, but that's okay.
I don't know what you mean by that, but sure.
Also, I want to say this. That's not actually a very good argument for religion, but I'll say it nonetheless. When we are discussing like things, if we are just using some hypotheticals like what we can, if we can go back in time, or what if God can like turn the events back and etc., that doesn't help much because we can't actually do that. That's like potentially impossible. So when we are trying to debate free will, it's best if we just stick to the like what we can actually do and see and basically observe, and that is the present moment. And my point is that in the present moment, I can paint my nose red and go scream outside of the window, and that would be very.
Presupposition.
What does that even mean to you? Also, what do you mean with that?
You
yeah.
thinking you could do it is a presupposition that you cannot demonstrate unless you do that thing. In which
But
case,
you
I mean, I
thinking
can do
you
it,
can't
but
do it is
that-
also a
that would bring
presupposition that
consequences, and I
flies
don't
in
want
the
these
face of
consequences.
your experience.
Exactly. You saying you
I
could
mean-
do it is a presupposition.
No, but my point is, if I lived in some like foreign village somewhere in the forest, I would probably do it. But since I'm in the city, I'd be like, people be like, well, what the fuck is this guy doing out the window?
I thought you
But,
said.
yeah.
I thought you said we shouldn't engage in things like that because we're not things we're going to do. However,
Yeah, fine.
I would say
No, but I am in the city. I can observe that. I can go scream outside the window, and people are like, yo, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like,
that's a
straight up.
presupposition. Every time you say I could do something, I could do this, I can do
Okay,
this.
okay,
it's a
sure.
presupposition.
Okay, I can mute my microphone right now, but I ain't gonna do it.
Okay, you ain't going to do it, so you couldn't.
Yeah. Huh?
This is your presup. I don't see how you're not. I don't see how you're failing to recognize your presupposition that you cannot do these things.
The burden
No,
of
no, I'm-
proof
I'm not-
would
it's the
be
other
on
burden.
the burden of proof is on proving free will, and the reason that is because
Have we even defined?
free will cannot be scientifically observed. So if I were to say I don't think dragons exist because there's not enough proof, the burden of proof would be on the people that do think it exists.
Yeah, but it's
And
not
I
even
want
a
to be very
scientific
clear.
concept. So
And I
there's
would
nothing
agree, I'd
scientific
agree.
about.
Well, if
free
it
will,
exists,
so-
then it
Well,
should be a
but-
scientific
But the
concept.
thing
No,
is,
false.
I think we are missing something. Like we know, like we can give some like we can say, okay, this is a dragon and it exists. Like in science can say like, nah, it doesn't exist actually. Like, but we can say, okay, dragon is a giant ass lizard with scales and everything. But when we're talking about free will, as far as I understand, we can't even define what is free will, or at least you can't. Maybe I don't know. Can we
I mean,
even define
can-
like agree what it is?
I would is exactly what I want. That's exactly what I want to know. What the fuck
Okay.
is free will? And if it is just the ability to have done something else, we are innately talking about time travel.
No, no, no. It's the ability to do something else. It has an implication of presence.
No, it's
and
the ability
future.
to have done something
No,
else.
no,
That's
that
the
would be
famous
that would be
definition.
that's not free will. That's just can I change the past? No, that's a completely different question.
No,
the question is
ability to
in the
have
present
had
moment.
done something else, not the
In the
ability to
present
Yeah, I mean,
moment,
yeah,
are there
that's
two
certainly possible.
options that you can actually choose between, or are you fated and determined to choose one or the other?
Yeah,
Well,
so
I'll
I'm gonna
I'll
say
try to.
it's the ability to have had done something else, not the
Okay,
ability
I'll
to
try
do
to.
something else in the past.
I'll try to present an argument. When you're playing the lottery and you choose certain numbers, and you lose and you don't win anything, if you go back in time, could you have picked another numbers? Yes.
No,
Why not?
because it's the exact same situation, exact same stimuli, exact same thoughts you have in your head, exact same ideas that you implement into the fucking reality.
I think we're thinking of time travel. It's not you go back in time knowing that you went back in time. It's
Yeah, but
turning
how
back
can you?
time. It's
How can
not.
that's impossible to prove, though, right? Is not.
Wait, hold on. How are you viewing this travel back in time thing? Do you think that I'm traveling back in time in my body and I have new ideas? Is that how you think
Yeah,
about it? 'Cause that's what happened.
no, from my understanding is you're saying if we can observe the event like from afar and just go back in the timeline and you can see the event again, is it possible for me in that moment to have done to have picked another number in the lottery? And I say,
don't think it
why wouldn't it be possible?
Because with analogous philosophy, when you have something that has done, right? It's like a book. You have the book. You go forward a page. Now you go back a page. Do the things that are on that, no matter how many times you flip back the page, ever change?
Yeah, that's true, and I think that's that's basically irrefutable because you can't change what's already happened.
Yeah, I agree. So the free
But you
will
could never
question,
change it no matter if you read it or not.
The way you're
How do you know
framing
that?
the quote unquote
Because
problem
because
of
the
free
words
will.
in the future don't change. The words at the end of the book don't change, no matter if you haven't read them or not.
But that's a hypothetical, that's not really like
totally
very
presuppositional.
grounded argument, to be honest.
That's
Things that usually
100%
work in the past
presuppositional.
are
You're
going to be
assuming
like
that
the
the book.
future.
You're assuming that the future is already written. That the book is already written, from the perspective
you are
of
definitely
temporality.
assuming that it is written in the future already because
Me?
God
No,
knows
I'm not.
what's going to be. You do because God knows what's going to happen.
No. God is atemporal. Temporally,
God has a
it has
plan.
not. He's atemporal. Temporally, it has not been written. Atemporally, it has been written. But it has been written doesn't even mean anything on that level. So if you're going to argue from that level, you have to. We can get into that maybe. But what your argument that you're framing against free will is that we cannot go back and change the past. I agree with you. I mean, obviously, that says nothing about what happens in the present and in the future.
If you can't change the past, as in, I'm not saying you can't change the past. That's not what I'm saying. So
Okay.
we can stop framing it like that. I'm not saying you're going back in time and then doing something to change the past. I'm saying you're going back in time and observing what happens in the past.
Yeah. I'm saying the thing that already happened. The way you're framing it, the thing that
will,
already happened could not have happened any other way.
Right, and that's what the past is.
Yep.
Yeah.
But so you think the
past
future and the
proves
past are the same?
Eventually, they do become the same.
No.
The future
false.
becomes the past.
future is
All of
never the past. The past is
my
always the
granddad's
past.
Future, my granddad's future is my past. My ancestors' future is my past.
No, it's only the past relevant to the present moment or the future relevant to the present moment. So no past is ever the future relative to what you're experiencing right now.
I'm talking about temporal relativism. The future of right now, sure, will never be the past.
Yeah.
But the past will be someone else's future in the past, in the further past specifically. So if that person was to go into the future and see his stuff, it's even more damning because in every instance of those hypotheticals, if they go into the future, which is our past, and we know what happens, and we go into the past and look with them, their choices are already made.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't think made by them.
I don't think
so. Why is it made different? Because the current example of time we have isn't in the future. Because it's happened for every instance before this. Someone else's future has been predetermined.
But you're presuming all the predetermination along the way. Part of the thing that creates the event that was in the past, but the future to someone even further in the past, were the free will choices of the people to instantiate the past future that they are witnessing.
You're presupposing that.
You're
I'm not
you're
presupposing that their
presupposing that
future
it's
was predetermined
not
because
that.
but I'm not, because their future was my past and it won't change. So their future was predetermined because it's my past.
I think you have a
But are we?
simplistic view
The
of
thing is, I
temporality.
agree with
does
that.
not.
I think I followed your thought well, and that's basically how it is. But the thing is, that's again kind of assuming how exactly like that's a very hypothetical like scenario, like and very abstract, and I don't see how it really how it really solidifies your stance against free will, because that's again very, very abstract. That's basically the same shit about religion. Yeah, you can say basically God has given us free will, and if you read in the Bible and believe in the Bible, you have to believe that we have free will, because that's what I basically believe in. And with your argument, it's against based on belief. If you really dig into it, because you're just trying to assume that that such thing is even possible. Like we can, I don't see really predetermined them, but just because we have chosen them, it's
Right.
not like I don't. I think for as in general, it's a lot about worldviews, like how we perceive reality, and I don't think we can really agree at the end of the day, because it's a very fundamental like difference of how we see reality. It's not really about a factual. I think arguments from either side.
I agree.
So I'll put it
Yeah,
I'll put
let's
it to you
hear
like this. I said that, so I do want to bring it back. Then I don't know if you all were here the day that we discussed this, when we first discussed it,
Yeah.
but I agree with you. I think they're both unfalsifiable claims at
Right,
the end of the
right.
day.
Right.
I think one has more evidence towards it, but it can't be falsified. Right? I think you could also argue an experiential intuitiveness for the idea that if we went back in time, you would never change your instances, and therefore it's fated. However, the example that I want to explain as purely as I can
Yeah.
is that the people in the past thought the exact same thing about their future that we're saying right now.
Because
If
it was
we go
true.
back, if we go back in the past to where their future is,
Uh-huh.
it was not true. It will happen the same way if it was like on a video recorder. No matter how many times we
That's
replay it and replay it and replay it and replay
This
it,
is still the
it will
yeah, but
always
that's
happen.
That's still a
that's
presupposition.
also assuming time is linear. Like we don't really know exactly like what time is. Does it even exist, and etc.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not a presupposition. If I
It
pick up a
is.
pencil and use a pencil, that does not circular reasoning to say the pencil works.
No, but that's not what you're doing. You're saying if I go back to the past and I like to the ancestors whose future I already know, and the past is already the future.
Yeah, then their
you're
futures
presupposing the
are
way that
predetermined.
you're presupposing the way that time plays out and causality.
You're saying I'm presupposing the way that time works? Do
yeah.
you think the past exists?
That's a
Actually,
good
I don't know if the past
question.
exists. I'm not even joking. I don't know if the past
Yeah,
exists.
that's like
maybe
debate.
like who
That's
knows if
not
the past
as
exists
obvious
at
as
all.
you think it is, but it's clear that you have an extremely simplistic view of like time and causation, which is fine.
Okay,
I
hold on.
understand
It's
that, but
not.
you're
It's not extremely
presupposing.
simplistic. It's not
It is-
extremely simplistic.
It is simplistic because you're saying there's absolutely no way in which choices can be made to impact the future. The future is just what it is. It's
No,
set.
there are
it's set
choices
in
that can
stone.
be implemented to impact the future. Those choices can't change. That's what
Yeah.
the past
Okay.
is.
Fine. So they're not really choices. So you invalidate the word choice. You bring it out of our lexicon. You completely remove the concept from your worldview, and then you tell me that's not simplistic.
I mean, let's not pretend like removing ideas from the dictionary hasn't been done before in lieu of science.
Of course it has, but you're removing one of the most fundamental ones, and also
What
for
to
no
you,
reason.
one of the most fundamental ones, and it's not for no reason.
It is. Well, you're right. It's not for no reason. You, for some reason, want to deny your own free will. But
No, I'm not denying free will. Denying something imagines that I believe it and I don't want to acknowledge it. I don't believe it and I don't acknowledge it. That's completely different.
okay, fine. Okay, I think we're not going to get any further on the free will argument right now. We clearly have very different presuppositions about time and about causation. And that's okay. That's what this is all about, you know. And I hope it
Yeah,
didn't get too
it's
heated.
fun. It's
or-
fun
Sure, we
to
can
talk
move
about
to
that.
something else. I'm not trying
I
to
know.
convince anyone.
I just
Yeah.
want to say one last thing and then move on. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I rarely talk about those shit because people in my life like don't give a shit. But
Right,
so
right.
if we can basically assume that that's correct and there's no free will, then can't we basically predict everything like what a person would basically do based on like who they are, and we
If we
can say,
were God.
okay, does God exist?
I said if.
Yeah, but again, that's are you arguing that free will is not real with the idea? Your argument against free will, basically, the scenario when we are observing our past selves from afar, does that argument require God, basically? Because if it doesn't, it's just a kind of just imaginary scenario. And again, I don't really see much value in noting that we can actually do. I mentioned I can mute my microphone, and if I cannot mute my microphone, and I ain't gonna mute it. I mean, what wouldn't be a presupposition?
What wouldn't be a presupposition? I mean,
Yeah.
technically, if we're talking about like the basics, I think that you existing as an experiential being is like the only thing you can presuppose. But presuppose in
You don't presuppose the laws of logic, or?
No, that's what I mean. As presupposition as beyond the laws of logic, I think that's an unnecessary.
Oh, okay,
The laws
gotcha,
of logic
gotcha.
are necessary.
Okay, right, because they exist. Right, you presuppose existence, and then you start to presuppose certain other things. And in your view, it is proper to basically presuppose the immovability of this like timeline, which has already been created.
Well, yeah, because that's how the past works.
I will concede though, like, sure, I don't think, again, like as I've said, I don't think either side can really, like, for sure present factual enough arguments to, so, yeah, I agree with that. Like,
That's all right, yeah. That's good. And I do want to acknowledge the value of this type of conversation. I think it got a little I got a little heated. That's on me. I need to pray for patience. But I just want to make sure everybody understands that we're just coming at this with such sort of vigor and strength and the depths of our reasoning and our emotion, because it is something
it's fun.
so
I respect
fundamental to us.
I always respect when somebody brings such topics, because it's interesting and it's very thought-provoking. So it's always enjoyable.
And even if we don't agree at the end of the
day,
day, it's like we draw each other all up into understanding our own positions. Even if we don't change our position, we understand the fullness of our own positions even better by having this type of dialogue, by engaging in these deep, strong topics. So I appreciate that.
Before there was TikTok, there was in-depth discussion.
Right. Well, let's bring it back, brother. Let's bring in-depth discussion. Let's bring it back. I love it.
I will say this in addition. We can move to some other topic that I think we can avoid the base rules of the universe. That would be great. So like something superficial, hopefully. But like, the one thing I do want to say is we are. Well, you're turning me up. I can turn my gate up if you wish. The one thing that I do think that we need to do is acknowledge that at the end of the day, none of us think that we're going to fucking go to hell. Like, we're not going to like obviously with what we know, not that we don't. I could be a murderer in the background, right? But like,
right.
I don't think any of us want us to go to hell or want us to do anything.
All we want
bad.
is the
like,
edification and the lifting up of each other in this chat. That's all I want. And
right.
I think
Hopefully we could have this discussion. Hopefully you can tell me I told you so past the pearly gates and shit.
Right. I'd love for that to happen, but I won't even assume that that's how it's going to play out. How about that?
You won't presuppose it?
I won't presuppose that. I'll just believe it secretly in my heart. How about that? Okay.
Now, if I was talking to someone
because we have an EAC in the chat, which freaking awesome, bro. Welcome. I do want to talk about the problem of, and I think this is something where we're not going to have such a fiery disagreement with each other. About
what are you talking about, dude? That's
the problem of the quote unquote problem of AI. Where do people in this chat, and let's start with Libabs, whose name I've already forgotten. Again, I'm so sorry. And let's start with, like, what is the probability in your mind? It can just be an intuition. You don't have to have arguments or reason or logic. But is AI going to kill us all or save us all or something in between? And let's hear what people think about that. If you're still here, Libabs, no problem. If we get a little silence for a second, we'll go to one of you other guys.
I am here. What does EAC mean?
That the way I understand it. Alex, why don't you explain that? Because it's an interesting concept. I'll be right back.
No, it's basically, I only recently, actually, for a couple of years, started like researching and looking into it because it's a very interesting topic, the entire like tech progress, etc. And basically, it's effective accelerationism, and it's about how the technological progress will basically upgrade society and bring more prosperity rather than
Destruction.
destruction. And it's more or less something that techno optimists put on their next to their names on social media, etc. And TLDR, that's basically you believing that the technological progress, AI, and etc. is a net positive rather than net negative for
Right.
humanity.
Right.
It's a range. Oh wait, no, Lib is the person that's going. Go ahead, man.
I haven't really thought about it. If you have a take, I can formulate my thoughts while you talk.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
And let me just finish. And the idea of the accelerationism, it's just that accelerate the technological progress so we get to the better years faster for everyone. More or less, that's
yeah.
the most.
And I have my own thoughts, but I do want to hear. So, Infamous, why don't you go with what you were about to say, and then we'll get into something.
Well, so this leads perfectly into my speech about Warhammer 40k. So in their world, they develop AI, and things are really good for a long time.
Right.
And then one instance of AI just goes, I don't know if we need to,
Serve
protect
people.
humans.
Right.
And then everything is fine. And the Emperor saves them, and they're like, we need to never do that again.
And that
That's
actually
possible.
sounds a lot like the fall of Lucifer, right? Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Of
Also,
Iron,
another thing, if free will is not real, not getting into this, but
Oh,
just
God.
no, not getting into. But AI is inevitable anyway, so we might as well embrace
Right.
it and enjoy the ride.
Right. Well, then they would say
Well,
the resistance to AI is also determined, so we should just do that as well, right? That would
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that I think personally is that there's moderation in everything.
A middle way.
Obviously, I think that there needs to be safeguards to obviate that end thing that I just said. Like, we need to avoid Skynet.
Yep.
So I think if we go too fast, it's a very big possibility that could happen.
Yeah.
So we need to avoid that. But I also don't think we can stop it. We've opened the gates. We've opened the floodgates. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
We need to be very careful about it.
Yeah.
So I think that it can bring prosperity.
Yeah.
Could it also not bring prosperity? I don't know. A nuke could also bring prosperity for a while.
I think in general it will bring progress either way for the world, because at the end of the day, especially if you're not religious, if you're pure atheist, AI must be the most exciting thing in the world, because I am religious and even I'm extremely excited for AI.
Yeah.
And I think this is just a continuation of the story of our species, more or less.
Yeah.
And you can say that's fate or that's just evolution and just biology. But either way, it's we are more or less creating a new digital. A lot of people disagree with that, even in the chat. I think Brandon disagreed, but we are essentially creating a brand new digital species, or will create eventually. And we have to be careful what exactly we're doing with that. But nonetheless, this is once in a like
once
forever.
Ever.
Basically the first time ever like something of this magnitude happens.
Yeah.
And this will change everything. And something that's connected with AI very closely is the brain computer interfaces, BCIs. And we're gonna have to have so many like important philosophical, religious, and just naturalistic discussions about how should we proceed as humans, because there comes the question, what's going to happen when AI surpasses humans in everything, basically, how the economical system will change to adapt to that, because AIs will be able to do everything pretty much that humans do, or almost everything. I guess they won't be able to be humans, at least for now.
Yeah.
But should we merge with AIs, right? Should we merge our brains? should emerge. How can we survive? Like how the economic, and that's another thing when people are saying, oh, communism, socialism is the worst, like it's bad. And I agree, like communism is not great. It's been very bad in the past. But going forward, I don't think there's another option other than some sort of a techno-socialism, because jobs will be obsolete, vast majority of jobs within the next like couple of decades. And then what happens next? We basically need some sort of a socialistic sort of system.
Let me jump in on this and see what you guys think about that. This is something I've been thinking about a lot. So this is the classic.
I will actually just agree with him. I don't have anything to add. I actually think the techno-socialism is probably the way we're going to go.
I also see how that is the most sort of like, that's the simplest, perhaps maybe even the necessary outcome of this type of thing. But let me present this. So I'm sure you've heard that in the 1910s, when Ford was getting the car down pat and basically anybody could have a car, that there was massive outrage. What is going to happen to all the jobs? Everybody's job needs horses. Well, of course, when the car came, everybody who worked with horses didn't just die off or lose their job. Actually, a much vaster economy was created relying on cars and automobiles and transportation, trucks and trains and everything. So in the EAC sense, I don't think we're gonna be put in this situation where nobody has anything to do. I think the possibility of things to do is gonna increase exponentially because of what we're able to do, and this is gonna require capitalism. This is gonna require the free trade of ideas and the free trade of services to most efficiently extract the value out of a system where there's more freedom, more jobs, more things to do, rather than handing it over to the government and saying, why don't you guys handle this for me? How about that?
So,
can I present my argument, because before I forget my words.
Okay, but
hold
quickly.
on, dude, I'm gonna be sorry.
Yeah, then we'll go to Infamous. Alex, to you.
Go ahead, dude.
Whatever you were just going to say.
Should I go? Okay, let me go first. I forgot. Oh, never mind. I didn't. So the difference between the cars, the automation of the previous industrial revolution is that now we're automating and basically creating intelligence, basically the agents that are operating everything. We are not just creating a new tool which is used by humans. We are creating the new humans. Basically, if we basically can create the mind who is doing the thing that needs to be done, then and we can replicate it infinitely, more or less, eventually. Then the human intelligence aspect becomes obsolete. But I agree, and for sure, we're gonna have tons of things to do. For example, people will be inventing new activities, new jobs, but how does those jobs will look like compared to the jobs of today? For example, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, often talks about how in the past, like a couple of 100 years ago, the jobs that people had back then are very different than so many of the jobs that people do now. So the jobs of the future will still be there, but will be much different. For example, a job might be to play a video game, and that's straight up your job, like you play computer games. And we're always going to have things to do. And also humans are never going to be, AI will most likely never really replace the human aspect, right? Because we care about other humans.
The heart.
And I think so social influencers, for example, a lot of people saying, oh, social influencers will be replaced by AIs. That's something I don't really agree with, because humans always like to actually observe and just be amused by other humans. The Coliseum back in Rome and the pro wrestling and sports, etc. shows. So that will remain. So we're going to have so many things to do. But that's the question, how the economical system will need to change. And I'm just presenting some sort of a techno-socialism as an option. That's possible, but what else could happen? Like, what would be the alternative? Maybe if every single person has their own like personal AI and some sort of energy source, which allows them to basically produce their own, like I don't know. That very, very interesting and hard question, honestly.
Totally. Well, let's go to Infamous. What were you gonna say, brother?
I generally agree with what he said. It's very different from cars.
It is different from cars. I'll grant you that. Yeah.
But it's even further than that.
Okay.
What is the need for capitalism? Well, the need for capitalism is to make money.
No, false.
The need
but
for
okay, fair enough.
well, the need for capitalism is to make money to be a man of means, or to be a person of means, so that you can like survive. It also is the secondary advantage of it is for innovation. Competition breeds innovation.
yeah, that is
right?
a secondary. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not the necessity of it, because the necessity of the society is to give.
The
So the
necessity
money
of
gets you
capitalism,
trades.
as I see it, is simply the free market. That what should not be managed by a small group of people and is essentially chaotic, like a market, should be managed in the most free way possible.
Right, and what's going to happen the second we create AI is that's going to be shut the fuck down, because it will be able to make the economy as efficient as possible, year
Yeah,
after
so that's
year,
the
decade after
techno-social.
decade.
So if techno-socialism is in some way the perfection of capitalism or something, then I'm fine with it. That's
Well,
fine.
but it's not going to be the perfection of capitalism, because capitalism defines itself as not being perfect. It can't be perfect because it defines itself on having a free market defined by other things that are imperfect beings. If it's
Yeah,
perfect,
capitalism has its flaws, definitely.
Yeah, of course, and
Yeah,
of course
if
it
it-
has its flaws. I'm not going to deny that, of course. Like
Right.
having little kids, Dickens style, and like soot all over their face, and Tiny Tim dying of whatever. So
Right.
obviously
Also-
it has its problems.
So
but,
if AI has the best intentions, best
Yeah.
case scenario, like utopia,
yeah,
capitalism will be fucking eradicated. It will be replaced with a rigid system of everyone gets the means that they deserve for the amount they contribute to society. And once the amount they contribute to society is null, it's the amount they contribute to their fellow human beings.
yeah. Some of those things are going to be hard for a robot to calculate. Like for instance,
I'm talking like thousands of years down the line. but
Yeah,
it'll
okay,
get
yeah,
it.
sure. I got you.
I
I
don't sure
got you,
about
I got
thousands of years. That's more like 100 years, maybe even less.
well,
even
yeah, I
up to-
know.
Yeah,
some of
I
this
mean-
stuff is easy to imagine on the near time scale, like within the next 100 years, which is interesting.
Yeah,
Also,
I'm saying
yeah.
1,000 mainly because I don't like. I know people like to talk about the Kirchhoff scale.
Yeah,
where,
Khrushchev scale. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that technological expansion has been
Exponential
rapidly
growth.
it's expansion. It's exponential.
Exponential.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this is going to be even worse than that. This is going to start going fucking backward on this Venn diagram, dude. Like, or not Venn diagram. This is going to start going backward on this fucking scale. Like, it's insane how much this is going to do. As humans, we've already discovered a new state of matter that will literally out invent quantum computing.
Already
What do you
talking
think
about the recent
Microsoft
Microsoft
thing, yeah.
announcement. Yeah,
Oh,
Mario
really?
Marijuana.
What's that? I haven't heard
whatever it
about this. There's a new state of matter
They
that
they invented a state of matter, my dude.
is. Yeah.
What?
What
Yeah.
are you doing? What are you doing with the Xbox recently at Microsoft? He goes,
Yeah, yeah.
we
Oh.
invented a new state of matter. What?
Yeah.
No wonder Call of Duty sucks. Anyway, they're spending all their time creating matter. What the fuck?
But by the way, I forgot to mention one important factor. I don't know much about that, so I don't want to pretend I know, but it's important to be mentioned. Nuclear, that new source of energy, basically, and that's going to be needed, and that's going to come soon, more or less.
It'll probably be
in the next-
fusion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my point. Fusion. So from what I've heard, fusion will be extremely cheap compared to the current methods we have.
Right. And
So
there's no waste.
It
right?
depends.
the
Fusion?
cost,
Or no radioactive
cost-
There's
waste?
very little waste, no radioactive waste.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, right.
the cost of most goods and services will goods at least will drop
Yeah.
almost close to zero.
To effectively zero.
So-
Right.
Yeah, and another thing is when you mentioned about people receiving enough compared to how they contribute to society, right? I know if I understood you're right about that. Are you sure about that? Because when AI is doing everything, like, are humans going to be required?
It's what I said
to-
next. It's what I said next. I think it'll turn to that, and then once it outgrows that, it will be, in the best case scenario, how good you are to your other human beings, because that's all there is left. Once there is no automation for you being a good person, because I don't think there can be. It's too risky, I would even say, for the AI to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
Then I think that that's the only metric it can judge people by. It's the
Yeah.
only metric left. You can't be judged by effectiveness. It can't be judged by society, because society is basically self-running. It can't be judged by energy production, because we have that.
Yeah, and still, I think every human will sort of have inherent right to the basic needs that are needed to survive and to live.
Yeah.
I think, and on top of that, I guess you can improve your social score, I guess, by being a good person on top of the base package. That's how I see it. That's the better scenario, at least, because the other one is a little bit too scary if you think about it.
Yeah. I
And,
think in
and
general.
I think the other. Oh, go on.
Well, I think in general also a reason not to be afraid.
What's God's opinion on this?
That's what I'm sort of gonna bring this to. So it's like if God, it's kind of like a Pascalian wager. Like if God doesn't want this to happen, then whatever. Like I have nothing to do.
We've
So I
seen
just
what
have
happened to the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, I just have to assume that God does want this to happen. That this is part of the divine providence. Because if it isn't, then it'll just not happen. Or whatever, but it doesn't matter. So I'm taking the perspective, I'm adopting it, I'm presupposing that this is part of the plan because it just is happening. I mean, here we go. And if there's a Tower of Babel moment, I mean, maybe, but it doesn't seem like that's really going to be the case.
I mean, I'm sure the Babylonians thought that too.
Maybe they did. Well, I don't know. The Tower of Babel we could get into. I think it has more metaphorical meaning than literal. Like I don't think they were literally that God was concerned that they were going to reach heaven, right? Like that's.
Do you think there was a literal flood, or do you think that's metaphorical too?
I think there was definitely a literal local flood. I don't.
Okay, so you're reasonable. Okay, cool.
I'm not confined to. I'm not also going to totally say there's no way the whole world was flooded. I just don't know that. But the evidence seems to point to a local flood, which was totally disastrous.
Yeah, there's a lot of local flood myths that happen.
Yeah,
at
it's
different
all
times.
over local floods all over the world. All the other myths, even within the Bible, some of the language that's used, and then some of the implications of having other humans interacting. So there are biblical cases to be made for the localness of the flood.
I will tell you right now, though, and we might be getting off topic, so tell me if I am. But
Yeah,
I'll
sure,
end on this.
Go for it.
I think we can 100% say there was not a global flood because there's sedimentary evidence out the ass for the fact
I've heard
that
of
it literally can't have happened because
Okay.
like certain strata of foliage could not be alive if that is the case.
Okay, cool. I mean, I'll accept that. I'll accept that for now.
I honestly, I'm willing to believe. Why not? Maybe there was a global flood. Who knows? I'm willing to believe. I haven't really researched much into it, but I've heard there are some arguments and evidence for. But I don't know. But it's possible. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, the reason why not is because the things that we find in the sediment of rock in different places in the world all conform to our view that there was not one, and where we would expect everything to be is there. But if it was the case that there was a global flood, the things we find would not have, one, been where they are, and two, survived to be where they are.
Okay, I mean, I'll accept that. I don't want to get into it because I don't know any of the science. I don't know any of the geology or whatever. Where
I'm not much.
And like I said, it's my personal intuition that it was a local flood, and I think that's supported biblically. So I'll just accept that. That's totally fine. I'll concede that.
I hate that God took a million fucking years to basically be like, oh, here's a rainbow, by the way. Go fuck yourself. What the fuck? What the fuck?
The rainbow is a fascinating thing. The rainbow is a.
Did you know that metaphorically, or even literally, it's translated as bow.
As a bow of a.
As an actual bow.
A bow and arrow. As in a bow and arrow. Yes, I did know that.
As God's weapon.
Yes, I know. Isn't that fascinating? I love when
it's very interesting.
Those little details, because it's beautiful. Like God, the metaphor I get from that is that God's weapon is the most beautiful, immaterial, perfect thing that there is. His bow, if he were to wield a bow, would be a rainbow.
It's a refracting circle of every color.
A bow of light, of pure light.
That also does not have the color black in it, which is
interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it does not have, for instance, sin. That's a very popular way of viewing it.
That is interesting. I never thought about that, but that's good to know. That's good to think about. Yeah.
In general, when we are talking about all those things, existential shit, and especially when we're involving religion, we have to first establish what exactly are our views, even if you're not religious in general in the world. What's really the mission? Even if it's not divine mission, even if it's just evolutionary, what exactly are we doing here? Should we just strive to expand and just basically construct AI and just explore space, and basically imagine if we were in a sandbox game and
Yeah.
we can just explore infinitely, and that's our goal. Basically, we are thinking, oh, we are so ahead in the future, but in the grand scheme of things, maybe we're just in the trial, basically in the trial level. And actually,
I'm a very big fan of individual purpose.
Okay.
yeah,
Individual,
reality is
but not
whatever
the
you-
collective purpose.
I mean, sure, you can establish your personal one to an overall
let's
like a
say-
company
let's say-
or something, but I think that personally, all of your purposes, quote unquote, are things that ultimately have meaning to you, and they might have meaning to other people. Like your family might have meaning to what you do for a job. Like, let's say that you were a victim of some crime and you spent the rest of your life to avoid that crime, and your family agrees with that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of some group purpose, and there's bigger purposes like being in the government or being the president, right? I
Yeah.
think there are bigger purposes that you could have, but there's nothing wrong with being a humble farmer and just wanting to protect your family.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
definitely
I'd love
not,
actually to
definitely
be
not.
a humble farmer someday, unironically. But
Yeah,
I think
that's great.
maybe the purpose of humanity might be described as the biggest personal goal a human has, for which affects everyone. Maybe that's a good way to say it. I just came with on the spot, but
Well, what do you mean, like the human purpose? What do you mean?
I mean,
Like the purpose of humanity.
I
as a
always
whole,
enjoy.
regardless of what individuals think. Or
I don't know. That's always kind of confused me. Like,
Look
what's the
at
purpose of
it-
lions?
look
you know
at
what I
look at
mean?
evolution. Look at evolution, like from pure evolutionary. And I'm not very like educated, but the base premise. We are starting from this point, and then we are evolving to this, to this, to this, to this. What's the next point? And like when you're disproving that we don't have actually free will, but even if we don't have free will, what our minds are basically striving us to do in order to just basically get to the next point, and can we accelerate that next point? And that next point might be again transhumanism and etc. Who knows? But either way, it's a very, in my opinion, like again, every person I guess is different, but I personally enjoy to have some sort of a like bigger worldview that I have, and it's somewhat consistent. So more or less, my worldview is very. I like to gamify things, aspects in life in general, and if you look at everything through the prism of a game, if it's a sort of a simulation or a game, and we are basically the characters in that game, what's if we had a mission, what that mission would be like. And not just that, for example, I'm personally very curious about space in general, like even since I was a kid.
yeah.
And you can from a very religious point of view, like I'm not even sure from a religious point of view what exactly a space is, but from atheistic and just from any point of view, more or less, if you think about space in general, what is space like? What we're doing here, like we're in this rock in space, and we are surrounded by this matter that we don't really understand what exactly it is, and we have other like planets, rocks, and then we have beyond that galaxies and like potentially other shit. So should we try to understand it further? And I think I've mentioned Demis Hassabis. I love listening to Demis Hassabis. You probably know him. He's one of his main drives to actually create super intelligence is exactly that, to understand better the nature of everything, pretty much.
Yeah. This is one of the great themes of both Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and this other, not
I've
Hitchhiker's
actually
Guide to the
never seen
Galaxy is
that movie,
Douglas
by the way.
Adams' amazing book. But then the Isaac Asimov short story, which has to do with humans create a super intelligent AI, and they keep asking it this question throughout history. So it starts like, a humanity that's like a little bit ahead of us, and they create this AI, and they go, oh, they have the realization that the heat death of the universe is coming at some point, and the only way to stop that would be to reverse entropy. So they ask the computer, can we reverse entropy? Is it possible? The computer says, not enough data to create an answer, right? So then they go, oh well. So then it fast forwards a million years later. Humans are like transgalactic. They're in all sorts
This
of
is the Answer is 21 movie. I think I've seen this.
That's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is awesome. And that one, that's even a better concept, which is that you ask the super AI what the answer to, or what what the meaning of life is.
was.
Yeah, what the meaning of life is, and then it takes a million years to formulate its response, and then it just says 21 or 42, I think 42.
42 it was. I've
40.
heard the meme, but I actually haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
But yeah, it's
Then both of these stories come down to essentially there might be a question out there which even having all the knowledge of the universe doesn't answer.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is very interesting.
In general, I think that's very, very, very cool thing. Like I think most people take like reality for granted and just the fact we exist and everything, it works the way it works and don't think too much about it. And I think even if you're just pure atheist, that's very fascinating topic. And the more you think about it, the less you understand it, maybe, because it makes less sense.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Yeah.
So
And-
my view as an
Yeah.
atheist, personally,
Yeah.
on life is I kind of don't care if I have free will. I don't really care.
Uh-huh.
What I care about is that I am the set of matter that, in this limited amount of time in the universe, was able to exist at this particular time, a very gifted time.
Yep.
With all the knowledge I know about humanity, obviously there could be a golden age down the line that I just missed out on, right? But
Right.
I'd like to think I have it pretty good. My senses tell me that.
Yep.
And so I consider myself lucky enough to be born, and I do not want to squander that chance. Like if you won the lottery, I wouldn't want to squander the money.
Right. Right.
So, the same way, I don't want to squander my life, and I kind of want to be around for the ride. I want to see what it is, and then I can go back to not existing. I'm okay with that.
Right. No, that's good. I mean, yeah, fundamentally we're all
Yeah.
driven by some sort of like hope. or
I,
something like that.
I share a lot of the similar feelings. So I'm lucky for existing. I consider myself lucky for existing and appreciate life and would love to see where the everything will go like in the next decades, hopefully. But yeah, and I guess we are different. Like everyone has like somewhat different worldview and etc. And nobody is right really. I mean, depends if you are very rigid, like religious person, you can say, oh, you're wrong about that. But I think everyone should be at the end of the day just free to believe what they believe
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I agree with that.
find their purpose. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, let me look
it's
at this chat
a
real quick because
cool
I noticed I have a friend of mine who's trying to be as troll-like as Comic Brandon. I'm not sure. So he comes in, he goes, "You are gay. Change my mind."
I can't.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's in the chat. It's okay.
You're right.
Topic now, we are talking about AI and basically the future of humanity and accelerationism, which is just to accelerate technology so that to make life better for people, essentially. So it's kind of
How would you
moved
view
from a religious topic, but then we're still trying to incorporate what our actual worldviews are. So within our Christian framework, what does AI mean? What does it look like? Is it abhorrent to God or is it possibly consistent with God? And then in the atheist framework, it's a little different. But
I'm personally a fan of the idea of just like, maybe they got it right. Maybe they can fucking do it. Let me see if I can copy that.
right.
Another thing
right.
is, it's very curious. Also, let me just say, what like even from a religious point of view, what exactly is really soul in the conscience? Like from a religious point of view, we have just the word. Okay, we have souls, but do we really understand what soul is? No.
No.
So
yeah.
could a machine have a soul eventually with the right neural network?
I think it could.
Why not?
Well, I don't know if it would come down. My view would that the soul part would have to be imparted by God. Like it seems like a soul is somehow a divine thing, or like at least an abstract
Yeah.
thing. So if it is going to have a soul, it would have to come from God. That's what I would say.
I think if you were a Christian, you would have to acknowledge the fact that there is a prerequisite to having a soul, not necessarily that he creates everything that has a soul.
Yes. Yeah.
So like he created the first souls, but like he didn't create Cain and Abel's soul. They were gifted to them once they were born.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know how you view conception, but a sperm cell doesn't have a soul. There's a time in which a life earns a soul.
At whatever point that is, which I don't know what point that is, but I have a conservative take because I don't know. I'm gonna err on the side of caution. But yeah, exactly.
I
When
actually
does that
personally have I personally have a take that I want to get your.
I want to
Let's
share
hear
my
it.
take. So before I say whatever else, like I guess I'm leaning. I'm straight up pro-choice, like in general. But I'll just say this: like and I think I'm not making this shit up because I remember it since I was born pretty much. And I've read online and people say, oh, that's impossible or whatever. But I'm very, 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 very confident that I actually have memories from my mother's womb.
Bro is Terrence Howard.
I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt.
I'm not saying any specific memory. I'm just saying, I mean, it is a specific memory. I just remember being born pretty much. Literally, I still remember that.
I've heard of a lot of people that claim this.
Yeah, even before I was born, but I don't remember any like supernatural shit. Just the actual place, I guess. And that makes me believe that consciousness or soul surely should exist at least before the last moments.
Well, it certainly seems intuitive that at a certain point within the womb, consciousness activates or whatever. Like, because there are babies that can be taken out very prematurely, and then survive, and then they're conscious beings. So let's hear what's your take, Infamous? Let's see what did you want to say previously, or you can respond to that.
I have an interesting proposition for you.
Okay, let's hear it.
Jesus sacrificed himself for the sins of all people, right? It was the greatest sacrifice ever.
Yep.
He arose to heaven.
Yep.
And he brought everyone with him.
Yeah.
That deserved it.
Yeah, sure.
If I create a scenario where I just kill a fuck ton of babies, where do they go? Is it heaven?
That's what I
would imagine they would go to heaven. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
But I've damned myself to hell. Yeah.
Probably, yeah. That's probably genocide against babies is probably going to be a good way to get there.
I didn't save my wife by jumping out of a hospital to a bunch of babies I couldn't save. Right.
You just did it because you were evil. Yeah.
Right. But what if it wasn't evil? What if I killed a bunch of babies to send them to heaven, and I've damned myself so that they can be guaranteed that
I think the best way to view sin is that it basically interferes with the God's design and intentions.
Mm-hmm.
That's maybe the best simplistic way. So basically, by killing or kicking the babies, I mean to death, I guess. You are basically interfering in God's design and idea.
I'm not saying it isn't wrong.
That's a complicated, I guess, topic. I guess we may never really know.
Well, a response I would have as well is that God obviously wants those babies to be in heaven, but he also wants them to have lives on earth. So you have taken God's right to give life to these people, with that, and added nothing to them.
Right? Yeah, I've fucked over what God wanted to do. However, I did just send a bunch of innocent souls to heaven.
Yeah, so I think there's different levels of sin. Does that make you as bad as the guy that does it maliciously? No, but it gives you the sin of absolute madness or
well, I mean, it's the sin of pride. It's
the sin
I
of
know
pride,
better than God.
The fact that you get to choose that and do that, so it's the sin of pride. But even it's like in the law, it's like gross negligence or something like that. That's what
gross negligence is definitely worth the baby murder.
Yeah.
Here's another idea. What if I'm not sure about your stance about that as a Christian, fellow Christian, but and I'm not even sure if my stance is purely Christian or whatever. And I'm not sure if I believe that, but I'm just saying as a hypothetical.
Yeah.
What if those babies won't go to heaven? What those babies will just come back to earth?
Then I think your God is evil. But you mean
he's saying
recycled.
what if they get different bodies?
Yeah,
that's actually what I was going to tell you, because the refutation is usually they won't go to heaven; they'll just be reincarnated.
Yeah, I mean,
what if we actually have to live and just learn some lessons and evolve our souls in a way in order to reach heaven?
A greater good or something.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that. I'm not going to rule that out personally. I don't know of any dogma that necessarily rules reincarnation in that way out.
Well, God's plan would be that these people are born. You stop them from being born. The plan will still go ahead because it says that there's nothing that can obviate the plan of God. So.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually a very, very good way to say it. Basically, the plan for those people are to be born and to live a certain life, I guess. And if you interfere with that plan, maybe they will just be born again and live that life that they were meant to live. And then, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
and
there's also the idea that the people, the babies that are killed suddenly, would have gone through greater orders of evil than what happened. So the babies that are murdered and don't come back, or all babies that are murdered in the plan are so that they go to heaven before they experience a undeserved amount of suffering.
Well, the
And by the
question
way,
would be
I'm not even sure
undeserved,
if
but yeah.
reincarnation is
But then there's
really
but then
the
there's
right word.
but then there's babies with leukemia. So yeah.
Right.
Speaking of diseases, I want to say I really hate when, and I don't wish disease on anyone, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, when people are saying, "Oh, see how evil is God," like babies have cancer,
Mm-hmm.
dude, that's not that. That's a problem of if you believe of free will.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
doing the wrong
Oh
choices,
God, we're
eating
back
bad,
here.
I know we are coming back here, but Alex is
polluting.
making
No,
a good
it's
point.
not.
Yeah.
It's not really polluting the earth with bad chemicals, and then they go to your bodies and cause cancer. And if the mother is very sick, potentially the baby might be as well. So
I
that's
mean,
not
I'm pretty
really
sure
that.
it's
I'm
skin
gonna-
cancer a lot of the time. But
No, but I'm
yeah.
gonna frame it, Alex. I think this is a good point, and I'm gonna frame it even more fundamentally. It's like it's the free will choice of Satan. So did the Jews that were gassed in the Holocaust did they freely choose to be gassed? Of course not. It was the evil free will action of a
Yeah.
higher order that then trickles down to these babies. So because
Right,
Satan has
God.
free will, babies get cancer. Satan is the one that gives babies cancer, essentially. So
Right,
to say that
but
it's God,
God is the one who gave Lucifer the ability to be saved.
I'm not actually positive he gives him the ability to save, but even if he does, fine. But so God
I mean,
only
after he
gives
creates
good.
everything.
He gave him
I
the
don't think
free
he-
will to make.
Yeah.
What's that?
He gave him the free will to make decisions.
Right. So then what you're going to argue is that free will is not a good, and then we're just right back in the free will argument. So we're not even going to go there. But that's just how
I
the
don't
Christian
know if I'd
conception
argue
is
that.
not that God is the author of evil. No Christian believes that God is the author of evil. You could not
Actually-
believe in a God that you believed was evil.
Actually, I'm pretty sure the Bible says he invented evil. It just doesn't matter.
No, it says he takes responsibility for evil. He takes
No,
responsibility.
I'm not talking
for
about
everything.
Jesus. I'm not talking about Jesus.
No, I'm talking
like,
about-
he invented sin. Like he invented it.
I want
He
to
just
just
doesn't matter in the cosmology of Christian Bible. Like they don't care. Like he's absolved. He's the greatest good. So no evil can match that.
I would
No
just,
evil can be put on
just
him.
want to
Yeah,
share my point of view for
Yeah,
the
what's
video.
up, Alex?
Sorry, but
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
I believe in God 100%. I think it makes sense for God to exist and some sort of a grand architect. And I choose to believe in Christianity because for me it makes the most sense. And I feel it's probably the right way. But everyone's free, obviously, to believe whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I believe that, but I also believe that we will never comprehend what God exactly is and what's the plan
Mm-hmm.
or how exactly it works. So all we can do is just throw some ideas, theories, speculations, hypotheticals,
Yeah.
and that's it pretty much. We may never know, at least in this life, maybe in the next, who knows.
Yeah.
But and I think that's a healthy way to do it because if we become certain of how God works, I don't think that's, and I'm not saying anyone here is, but if we became certain of how God works, that's kind of dangerous because you're like, oh, okay, I know how God works, so I'll do that to you.
Yep,
And
exactly,
I think
yeah.
that's where the problem with religions comes, because of people's ego and pride, actually, not because of their faith.
And I think
But
that is the
because they
problem with
think that,
New
yeah.
Age religions, especially, which all seem to claim you are God. You create all of your morality. You create everything about your experience, and you get to choose. It's almost like more radical free will than even I believe in, right? When they
Yeah.
say stuff like
Well,
you are God.
Well, so I'm gonna say this.
Yeah.
All of that literally just stems from interpretation of the Bible. Everyone does that, right? Anyone who wanted to justify slavery, they used the Bible. Anyone who wants to justify their own personal beliefs, they use the Bible. It's what creates the sects of Christianity. What creates other religions. It's what creates other people's opinions.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
understand.
literally just
Yeah.
trying to affirm your biases with a different belief system. Before
Yeah.
you were a fascist, you were a bully and an asshole.
Right.
Right? You just ascribed a thing in order to justify. So in the same way that you were a slaver before you were a Christian, you used the Bible to justify it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But-
I mean, I
yeah,
think,
but
I think you can use
that's
the
a-
Bible to justify anything, good or bad. But the question is, how do you most effectively, accurately, to the real? I mean, this is obviously coming from the perspective of someone who believes that there is truth, like objective truth within the Bible. It's about making the
Yeah.
correct interpretation, making the most loving, the most The interpretation that glorifies God and your neighbor the most. That's what I would say.
Well, I would
Yeah,
say
I agree.
the one that I don't even think your neighbor is necessarily okay with that. I think it's literally just gratifying God and his opinions.
No, that's not the two prime commandments, the two that are the fulfillment stated by Jesus to be the fulfillment of the law and the prophets, are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. So these
Right, those
two
are the opinions
commandments
of the Lord.
together fulfill the rest of the law. And really, to love your neighbor as yourself stems from your desire to love God with all your heart.
Right,
But
and that's what
Yeah,
I mean.
because
It's to justify loving God, right? Because God says, do this. It's the same thing that I think he asked Lucifer to do. And man has to succeed at it to succeed where Lucifer failed. Is he asked Lucifer was asked to love humanity as if he was God, as if they were God. He could not do that. And so now
yeah, you keep
saying,
stating this thing that Lucifer fell with humanity or because
no,
of
no, this is my
humanity.
opinion. No, this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
my opinion. I think that that's what made him fall. Personally, I think
Oh,
it makes
okay,
the
okay.
most sense.
All right. I
Because
mean, it's a
otherwise,
little bit of a fanfic, but that's fine.
it's definitely a fanfic. I'll go so real.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, I
But
get that. I mean,
it's
hey, that's a good interpretation. If you like that, then run with it. I do think it misses out a little bit on the. You just sort of like take out the angelology of it all, but that's all right. It's fine.
Well, I think that it still places Satan in a light to where he can be seemingly absolved, to where he's prideful enough to absolve himself,
Right.
but he's obviously wrong. And so,
yeah, yeah.
because he's not a completely irrational being, right?
No,
He
no,
still
yeah, he has
exists.
ration. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And so when he's like, oh, like he's like a punished son. He's like, I did nothing wrong, right? You asked me to do something that was completely stupid. And
right.
and God is like, no, I didn't. I didn't ask you to do something completely stupid. I asked you to do something you thought was stupid. And just like I asked you to love humanity, I'm going to ask them to love themselves and
Yeah.
everyone else as themselves. And if they succeed, I am right.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's okay. That's an okay way to start conceptualizing the Bible in its like pragmatic effect or its psychological effect or something like that.
Yeah,
It's
we
a
can
very big
talk about
like
this for
thematic thing
months.
because it's a very big thematic thing because Adam and Jesus are very similar in terms of theme throughout the Bible, and then you have like the fall of Adam and the fall of Lucifer, and how Lucifer is very similar to other figures in the New Testament, like Judas.
Yep. Yep.
Like humanity thinking he knows better than Lucifer thinking he knows better than God. Like it's the same event.
Yep.
And so there's a lot
yep.
of narrative symmetry, and I think that this matches up very well in narrative with the narrative symmetry.
Okay.
I think throughout history, there are certain archetypes of just roles, I guess, that just are repeating themselves. And that's kind of bad argument for AI because from a religious point of view, but the strive to create artificial superintelligence, etc., and it's very similar in a way to the thing that happened in the Garden of Eden in the religious text, because we are basically striving to reach the forbidden fruit, more or less, and to unlock the knowledge.
This is what Jonathan Pageau is going to call Luciferian intellect, and so that the pursuit of knowledge, which is outside that of God, which is like strange and foreign, and this is like what in he makes this point, which is that the $500 billion investment into AI that was just like pledged or whatever by the administration and by whoever, I think it's some money coming from Japan or whatever, the SoftBank. It's called Project Stargate, which is what apparently maybe, I don't know, I haven't looked into it myself, but he states is the translation of the Tower of Babel, like initially what it was called, Stargate.
He must fucking hate the show Stargate, dude. He must fucking
yeah, yeah, he must. So his point is our obsession, and it's also the third thing is that it's also what the CIA called that remote viewing project, like what the Men Who Stare at Goats is based off of, that type of stuff. And it's this obsession with receiving knowledge from higher sources that are not the highest source, from receiving knowledge from this like sort of either demonic or obviously it's going to appear angelic realm.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, he hides himself. He disguises himself as an angel of light. But Have you ever? And I'm switching topics here.
Yep, go for
because I think you would genuinely enjoy this as a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy it as an atheist. So
Cool.
obviously, it's a piece of fiction for me.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
It's the game called Faith, and
Game-
it is a. Yeah, it's a game called Faith. Look it up real quick. It's a
Yeah.
pixel NES kind of style game,
Cool.
and it's
What's the name?
Faith.
Fate.
Yeah, just look up
Faith
Faith
game.
game.
Faith.
It's called Faith
The Unholy Trinity.
Trinity.
Survival horror
Yeah.
video game. Yeah, cool.
It is about
Is this
a
a New
priest.
Blood? New Blood game?
It is by New Blood. It is by New Blood. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
It is about a priest, a young priest, who goes to. That's him. He goes to. Oh, that's fucking. Yeah, they're talking about Gary, who is the Antichrist. But Gary is a normal. Gary is a normal human being, just like you and me.
Oh, that's awesome. This is cool.
But basically, it's a game where John, he is a priest in the ministry. They both go to exorcise this girl in some county, right, in the back roads.
Yeah.
And John ends up taking the parents away because they can't even they can't see this. It's horrible. They're exorcising their daughter, basically, right?
Yeah.
Leaves him alone with one priest, this elder priest, the one that he brought John to teach him. He dies, and in his last moments he says, "Take my cross, save the girl." And he goes to the attic, and he can't do it. He reaches out, and he says, "God help me, God help me," and he hears no answer.
Huh.
And that's Father Garcia. I love Father Garcia. He's just a fucking shotgun. He's great.
Yeah.
He goes like, "Oh, you're possessed, but your meat bag is." Like,
Yeah.
but the thing is like he calls out for God to help him, and then he says, "Anyone, please help me." And an angel of light appears to him and says, "You realize if I help you in this moment, you will damn this girl." And he goes, "Yes, I do, because I want you to say it. I want you to damn her." And he does.
Wow.
And the rest of the story is him redeeming himself for that night.
Gotcha.
And
That makes sense.
God, throughout the whole thing, he has visions of like Father Garcia, like the cult that happens. And people are like, "Where is God in all this? He must be so cruel." And he goes, "Who do you think's given him the vision? God does not appear as an angel of light. He does not solve your problems. He gives you the strength to solve your own problems."
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's
It's
great.
a very good game that I think you would love.
And that's great thematically with the Bible. That would be the reason for the knowledge of good and evil and for this whole play.
Yeah, and
What I say, what did you hear?
the big thing here is the unholy trinity, the mother, the daughter, and the unholy ghost.
Interesting.
So the mother is the mother of the Antichrist, and the daughter is the daughter of the unspeakable, which is the end times.
Got you.
Do you want to know?
Yeah,
do you-
for our
the most interesting thing I will say, and then we can move on
Yeah.
from this whole thing. In this universe, demonic possession happens by the most disgusting way I have ever seen,
What is
which
it?
is
Yeah.
they cut a hole in your face, and then they take a newborn baby
Oh my god.
and they just pass it through, and it's supernatural, so it just goes and goes and goes,
Oh my god.
and they just doing it until something answers.
Wow.
yeah, I have my doubts of that working in real life.
Yeah, I do have my doubts of that working, but
But that is interesting.
I'm willing to bet it wouldn't. It wouldn't. But yeah,
John-
and, for all we know, guys, the world might end in 5 years when Stargate is finished and working, and everything might be real, and then everything might end. So for all we know, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's very
I think you
very
would,
fun to know.
I think you'd enjoy that even more than Warhammer. Honestly,
I think
it's
I
a
will.
very
I think
good-
I'll download that after this stream and try it out because
It's a horror game, I will say.
That's fine with me. I like that. That's
Yeah,
super fun.
it's a
All of New Blood's games are very good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll check them out. I've never heard.
also
of
the
that. I
best
can't believe I
part.
haven't.
The
Yeah.
best part about Gary is that he is just kind of a normal human being. Like he owns. He's the landlord of a fucking hotel. Like
Really?
he'll like write little like notes to be like, remember to pay everyone's rent today. Also, don't open your door if you hear a knock that resembles the word 666, whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah.
Do not let in the unspeakable unless it forces its way in which case we will come and collect the body.
That's funny.
Remember, the gas bill is on Tuesday.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny, man. That's
It's
cool.
fucking, it's so stupid.
Yeah, I'm reading this. I mentioned the C.S. Lewis book before, the Space Trilogy, and one of the main antagonists in the second book of the series is called the Unman, and it's basically a man who's
The Unman.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a man who basically is like Elon Musk in the first book, where it's like his only goal is to populate the galaxy, and the purpose of that is for the survival of humanity and just simply to spread humanness throughout the galaxy and make sure we don't die. Essentially, that's his main goal. But then in the second book, and it makes him a much stronger antagonist, this man becomes absolutely possessed by Satan himself, and then he's the Unman. He's essentially the Antichrist, but I think C.S. Lewis wants to use this kind of different language. But and it is so fascinating the way he describes how like Satan would use intellect. So basically they're on Venus and there's only one person, and it's this beautiful woman.
Oh, the whole planet of women, yeah.
Yeah, so it's this gorgeous, like, you know, Aphrodite-esque woman, and she has no sin. So she's not corrupted in any way because
like Eve.
Sin has not been introduced. Yeah, it's basically Eve. And then the part I'm at right now, the middle part of the book, is the Unman convincing Eve, this woman, to sin for the first time. And it is, and then our protagonist, the C.S. Lewis character, is presenting his arguments for why she shouldn't sin, or why. But the important point is that Lucifer's arguments are so convincing; it's almost impossible to resist them. And then one of the things is that, like, when the Satan is trying to convince the woman to sin, he's acting like this rational, suave, intelligent, Mephistopheles-like type guy. Like, you imagine him wearing like a suit and come on, if God really didn't want you to do that, he wouldn't even let you think about it. Like, why can you think? He wants you to go against his will. That's what he desires. Nothing ever goes against his will, right? So he's like tricking her in this really suave way. But then when he's just alone with the C.S. Lewis character, he's just this like rabid animal. And the way he describes it is that he uses intellect to convince, like Eve in this case, of sin, in the same way that he's using that man's body to be able to talk or manifest or whatever. That it's just this like tool, that it's nothing more than a tool. Like, Satan wouldn't even value intellect. He would just use it for the most destructive purpose possible. Isn't that interesting?
He's trying it on like a new suit, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, guys, this was awesome. Great stream. I think we got into it on a few different fronts, and it was great. Mostly it was a free will stream, but then I liked where we went with AI and accelerationism and all the stuff. I'm going to check out that game, 100%. And so thank you for everyone in the chat. Thank you, David, for coming up. Sorry we didn't really get to anything. Yeah, it looks like you're having a good chat with Brandon over there and Jackson. So thank you guys. That's going to wrap it up for today. Much love, much appreciation. If you want to always know when the stream's going live so you can jump in the Discord, just hit that notification bell. And peace, everybody. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
What was that, Alex? Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was about to say it's kind of off topic, but not really. It's evolving technology. If you're looking for a very, 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 very good show to watch, check out Severance. The new season is just ongoing right now.
Yes, I love it.
Do you know it?
Yeah, I've been watching it. Yeah, it's awesome.
Did you saw the latest episode?
Yes, I did. So cool.
Yeah, I won't spoil, but
I know I don't want to
yeah,
spoil anything. We can talk about it, but I wouldn't spoil it.
Definitely, definitely, I would say, because I think that you're obviously I'm no YouTuber, but I personally would love to see a Christian play Faith. I know you don't do.
Oh no, I would play it on stream. I think that'd be a great idea, actually.
Yeah,
you can also
I think
make series, maybe.
I think that deconstructing it
would be interesting
on stream would be interesting because I think
down.
that you'd have a lot of cool opinions.
I think that's a great
I
idea.
would be there. It'd be very fun.
I think that's a great idea. And you know what? I would even bet that next week that will be a main feature of the streaming.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm curious to watch as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And the
Cool.
one-
As long as a few people are interested in that, I think that'd be a great idea. So.
It's 3 a.m. here. Tomorrow, if somebody asks me, "Yo, why did you didn't go to sleep?" I'll be like, "Yeah, we were talking about the most existential questions.
Yeah.
What's the nature of the universe
Yeah.
and artificial?"
Yeah. Exactly.
Was arguing with an Irishman.
An Irishman, an American, and where are you from, Alex?
I'm from Bulgaria.
Bulgaria.
That's
Okay.
Eastern,
Cool.
Eastern Europe. Yeah.
Right. Oh no. Yeah. I know it. I've never been there, but I can picture it. Cool,
Yeah.
brother. Welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a good night, evening, or whatever
Yeah.
time is.
Alright,
Peace.
talk to y'all.
Peace, everyone. See
Was
ya.
nice. Cheers.